times like all you want to do is run. Hear me out, hear me out. If all the things you never show, there are the things I want to know. Secrets start in your heart to slow. But if you don't want to tell me now, I guess I'll never know. Losing almost all my energy. It's getting hard to talk to you, and I'm the only one who speaks. It's all the things you never show. There are the things I want to know. Secrets start in your heart to slow. But if you don't want to tell me now, I guess I'll never know. Here we go.
Okay, hi guys, here we go. You guys know that Charmaine had just done a live as well just before this. So if you haven't checked that out, go check that out. And then I had joined a little while later. I was partway through her live at some point when I was working on the blanket stuff actually after I got back home and stuff like that. So I really wanted to talk about this blanket. But first of all, thank you guys for coming to the live. Rhonda, I just saw your message in Messenger there on there. So I hope you're having a better day or a great day to relax and stuff like that, you guys. I do have to work at 6 a.m. in the morning. And it's 7 o'clock now this time. And I know it's really late on the East Coast side and Maritimes over there. So whatever, it is what it is, eh? But I really wanted to touch on this blanket. So again, good evening, everyone. Ben. Thank you. I see you over in, Charmaine's thing. And then I see you here. So, whoops, I got to change my style. Sometimes I always have to seem to set up the thing. But anyways, okay. So again, I don't know how you guys feel about the blanket. Myself, Rhonda, that's sweet. So thanks. Sending lots of big hugs. Thank you so much, Rhonda. Thank you guys. Thank you guys again all for being here. Appreciate that. Jack and Lily, if you haven't hit that thumbs up, the like and the share, please do. Again, keeping the awareness out there. So getting right into it, you guys. Again, I want to go over different things in the different people's videos and stuff like this about the blanket. Now, the reason why this blanket particularly bugs me is because to me, it's the tell-all of if somebody in the family planted that blanket, and because there's so much, I don't even know what to call it, so many weird stuff with this whole blanket and who did it. Was it Malaya Brooks' side of the family? Was it Daniel or Daniel's side of the family? So who planted this blanket? Now, Daniel does say in the Drunk Turkey show interview that he was told by whatever major crimes unit or the RCMP, whichever, that the blanket was planted. Now, how many of you guys believe that the blanket was planted? Just simply planted, 1 for yes, 2 for no. So we're gonna get into, like I said, this blanket because I feel it's really important. Again, because if this blanket is planted by somebody, then to me that's the tell-all of really what happened to Jack and Lily. Doesn't mean we know where Jack and Lily are, but it means that I think it's the tell-all about this. And to me, if the major crimes unit feels like this blanket was planted, or the RCMP, I think that probably could tell us exactly that they're thinking along the criminality lines, but how they've come out to the public. So I think a lot of us know that it's underneath the missing persons, probably because like they can gather more information by keeping it under the missing persons. But I think that if they're going to tell Daniel this, and this is, of course, based on Daniel's words, about the blanket being planted. Then to me, if that blanket is planted, doesn't that just kind of make you think that then it's more along the criminality? Because why would why would somebody plant a blanket if it was just truly that the children were missing? That doesn't make sense at all. And it also doesn't make sense that on Hidden in the Fog, in those messages, when Daniel's talking about how the dog handler tried to get a false confession out of him. Now, again, I think that was planned to be said like that, get a reaction out of Daniel. I don't think that it was just a random thing to be said by the dog handler. I think that the RCMP, Major Crimes Unit, they go into this case and they are not anyone's best friends. They are on the side of the victims, and not to be buddy-buddy with Daniel or Malaya, even though they may act that way. Again, they're there to either F with your mind, in a sense. They're there to get the truth out of what happened to Jack and Lily. And I think it just kind of goes without saying that they're going to do what they need to do. You guys, if you guys watch like EMU and stuff like that, or EMW, and you watch all those crime show investigations, right? You got the good cop, bad cop. You got them being nicety, trying to learn about the person, making them feel comfortable with you, etc., etc., etc. And again, hello everybody, and hi Radmilla and Caval and Blue Jay. RCMP said it public. I don't believe not DM saying what they said. If RCMP said it public, I don't believe DM saying that they said that. Again, you know what? At the end of the day, we don't know the answers of what happened to Jack and Lily, but I do believe that this blanket is a huge piece of tell-all, especially if the blanket was planted. Now, most of you guys believe that the blanket was planted yourselves. Now, let me ask you the second question to that. Do you think it was planted by the Brooke side or the Martell Mackenzie side? So either write Brooke side or the Martell, just say Martell side to keep it easy, even though we're referring to Martell Mackenzie side. So I'm curious what your thoughts. Oh, and of course, if you don't think it was planted at all, then just put not planted or something on there. And because we're gonna, like I said, get into this because this, to me, again, I want to stress, is such an important key piece of evidence, because obviously if anyone from either side planted it, let's just say, obviously it's very telling about the situation with Jack and Lily. Okay. We'll just start here, and let's see. Martell side, Christine says. Hi, Cheryl. Martell side. Caval, Martell side. Shannon, Martell side. Trudels, Martell side. Hi, Explorecore. Truth and Beauty, the Martell side. Sailor Moon, the Brooke side. B in Florida, Martell side. And Trees says Martell side. Daniel knows he's still playing his game. April D says M side. So that was going to be the Martell side. Explorecore says, I'm not sure yet. Yes, ma'am says, I think planted, and I think that rules out abduction. Carol says the Brooke side. Blue Jay, Martell side. Stacy says Martell side. Carla says Martell side is responsible whether planted or not. Pamela says Martell side. And let's see here. Let's see if there's any more. Connie says Martell side. And Moonchild says neighbor. And Rhonda says she's unsure. Okay. So, again, there's so much going on with this. Now, obviously, I want to put up this picture first, okay? So, originally, in a clipping on a video I was watching, I thought that the very hot pink blanket, or they're ribbons. It's not a blanket. So I thought that was the blanket because it was waving and it looked like, a straggly kind of chopped up type of blanket. Now, Now I realize that that was wrong and that was misinformation from when I had said this before about it not being the blanket, because myself and I was having a conversation with Haley, and I had actually showed this picture to Daniel as well, and he never corrected me. He never corrected me at all about me showing him this picture of a blanket, right? I did show him a picture of the window, the one in the window. But anyways, uh, and then he did mention in that comment, and I will show it in a bit. But so Haley, which is a stepsister to Malaya, had sent me the picture of the blanket. She's talked about it in, I think it was Hidden in the Fog, about the blanket and about taking a picture. So, correct. So, she already stated that she took the picture. And so, she sent me the blanket, which is the LOL doll blanket, to the left-hand side. So the one on the right is simply ribbons when they were handing them, because I was watching a video so you can see it being handed off, but it was basically a bunch of ribbons. And I think it was somebody that was carrying the ribbons, and then the person would take one, put it on the tree and stuff like that. Now, exactly, draped over. Just like what Hayden said, like, I think it was like a towel being draped over the like a shower towel kind of being draped over, was how it was basically described about this towel. Not that it was all tangled up and stuff like that. And to me personally, I'm just going to say my opinion on this one. But when I look at this blanket, and let me show you actually the image file. Let me just show you the better picture of that blanket. I grabbed that from because Daphne had it on hers. And someone else thought that this was a blanket. I just want to show this, but it wasn't. This isn't. This is ribbons as well. When you're watching the video, you can clearly see it's ribbons. So these have nothing to do with this blanket that Daniel says was on the ground or whatever like that. Now he's trying to say, right, that a blanket that was shown to him on the ground, a different pink blanket that basically he had denied or said that that wasn't nothing to do with Lily's. But we're going to, like I said, get into all that stuff in just a minute. But I will pull up the other picture of the blanket, the truer picture that I was sent. And where is that one? Just give me a second. Just saw it. Some of my pictures aren't showing up properly. Like they're just showing as, if you open up a document. So hold on a second. Let me just close that because it was there a minute ago. But I know it's up here in my, okay. Okay. So I'll just put this down for a second, share screen, go to my untitled design. Okay. So again, this is the full view of the blanket right there. Just to bring that forward again. And for me personally, yeah, like if you guys can make that out better, I can make it bigger like this, right? So just for me personally, this blanket here for me, it doesn't look like it's been sitting there forever and a day and stuff like that. It doesn't have, if it's been raining and, leaves falling on it and different things and it start turning a little bit of color, because the rain's getting at it. Like this thing was sticking out like a sore thumb, and it was on, I think, what was it called? I can't remember the actual road, something like Glen, but anyways, off of Lansdowne Road, not Lansdowne Station Road, but Lansdowne Road. Okay. So, again, this blanket to me is, I believe it's planted for sure. But so now I want to put a couple things up here quickly as I'm going to get into some videos. So the children's stepfather, Daniel Martell, said the Mountie showed him shirts, a blanket, and a water bottle found during the search near Gairloch Road. But he said none of those items belonged to either child. Okay, maybe that was perhaps saying something without saying that. Well, you'll get the picture soon enough here, okay? Again, Oh no, don't want that one. Derwood. I dealt with. Oh yeah, didn't want that one. Remove. So that was one article. Another article had the same thing, had a screenshot for that. So now I want to get in, and I'm going to go to the Drunk Turkey show first for this. So this is Daniel, when Daniel was on the Drunk Turkey show. And let me just get my ducks in a row over here. Okay. So there's a couple times that he talks about the blanket on the Drunk Turkey show, but I'm going to go to this one first. So stop screen, share screen. And I'm just going to play this out. So again, DT's channel, The Drunk Turkey Show, if you haven't subscribed over there, of course, you know, most of you guys know who The Drunk Turkey Show is by now and stuff like that, especially since Daniel was finally doing an interview. Even it was a pre-recorded interview, but obviously no matter what, people like myself even included wanted to hear everything that Daniel had to say, you know, and not all this typing stuff that he does, but just literally listen to his voice and what he's going to say. But anyway, so I'm going to start at like the 34-minute mark with this, guys, and hit play and listen carefully, of course.
That the blanket in the tree was Lily's that ended up being Lily's. Was there another blanket that was found out there?
There is actually another blanket. There's a full pink blanket. I was shown a picture of it, you know, splayed out on the ground. Officer Karen Mason showed me that. She's been, I mean, she was involved in quite a bit of the, you know, just back and forth stuff between the command center and me and Malaya and Mom and, you know, some of the people involved, and just trying to relay information, keep us up to date and stuff like that.
And this pink blanket that they found, was it something that they found close to the house, or?
I'm not sure the location where it was found. There was a pink blanket. There was a water bottle. There was a children's T-shirt, and there may have been a sock or socks too, showing me as well. But none of them belonged to Lily's, right? I mean, none of them were Lily's. None of them were Jack's.
Do you know if all those items were found at the same place, or were they found throughout?
I'm not sure where they were found. I was just told that, are any of these items Lily and Jack's? We found them during the search.
Were they photographed together?
No, they were not photographed. They were photographed individually.
Okay, so the most likely then they were not found together.
Yeah.
And around what time was this blanket, the full one that didn't belong to them? When was that one found?
That was found, it would have been during the daytime. So, because I remember I was actually standing on the front deck when she brought her phone up to show me. So that would have been sometime during the day. So I'm saying between noon and 4 p.m. probably.
So at 4 is when they found the pink blanket that was Lily's. That was a portion of the blanket, correct?
Yeah. I'm not sure on the exact time on that either. It would have to be after 4 because the school bus goes up there around 4 o'clock.
Gotcha. And
because that school bus, it goes up and it actually goes up and turns on my Uncle Ron's house, which is about 500 feet past where the blanket was found.
Gotcha.
So.
Okay, so we're gonna leave that part there. Now I'm gonna go over to Daphne's channel because she had been talking about the blanket as well, but she played like the Spotify on the blanket. So let me just quickly go to Daphne's channel. Where are you, Daphne? I know you're here. What did I do with you? That one. Oh, she's right here. Okay, there we go. I thought it was my own channel for a second because it had the pink blanket to it. Okay, so 1 second. Stop screen. We're going to share the screen again. Share. So again, this is Daphne's channel. So again, if you haven't subscribed to Daphne's channel, it's Daphne's Case Files. Okay, so basically, she believes that the blanket was planted. I mean, Daniel's saying that they told him it was planted, eh? But anyway, so we'll listen to this for a minute as well. Thank you, Daphne. Again, covering the blankets.
I'm from Gairloch. Go ahead. Families brought us to a location there, not far away, that there's a piece of a blanket, which the mother says she believes it belongs to her daughter. It's just off the road here. I don't know if you do PU status, you'll see where Bravo 3 and Bravo 8 are. Yeah, we just off the Lansdowne Road, off the 289. Did we say we found an article? Possibly. There's a couple other pieces of old clothing here. Pieces just torn, like pieces of rag, but there is a out of the road. RCMP helicopter there. Do you see the F-250 there, the truck and the SUV? Yeah, pretty much directly in front of you, sir. That's blanket. At 10-4, we're coming up to it there. Just debate whether we leave it for us for PS. 5 kilo 2. At 23 here.
1957?
Yeah, I'll just keep you guys safe until I tell you I'm not, I guess.
Sure. I'll start you off with 7 p.m. there. We can go from there.
They found, was it something that they found close to the house, or?
I'm not sure the location where it was found. There was a pink blanket. There was a water bottle. There was a children's T-shirt, and there may have been a sock or socks too, showing me as well. But none of them belonged to Lily's, right? I mean, none of them were Lily's. None of them were Jack's.
Do you know if all those items were found at the same place, or were they found throughout?
I'm not sure where they were found. I was just told that, or any of these items, Lily and Jack's, we found them during the search.
Were they photographed together?
No, they were not photographed. They were photographed individually.
Okay, so most likely then they were not found together.
Yeah.
And around what time was this blanket, the full one that didn't belong to them? When was that one found?
That was found, it would have been during the daytime. So, because.
Okay, so we already heard that part. And Nurse, we're going to get Nurse Chancey. We're going to get to that as well about this. So again, Daniel, and he was correct, I guess, when he said that, like perhaps that none of those articles belong to Jack and Lily. But this is what always brings me back to the planet when this whole blanket is being talked about. And again, Cheryl did say about the railing. We'll listen to that. But we're going to go to my channel when Darren was talking. Now, I do want to say this, and it only dawned on me when I was listening to it again. So Daniel did tell Darren and did talk about the hole that was in the bag. I was thinking that was the first time we have really heard it, but actually it's actually not true. It was said on Hidden in the Fog's channel during, I think, Cheryl's and Logan's thing, or I believe it was, and then also on my channel with Darren talking about how that there was like a rip in the garbage bag. Okay, so actually it wasn't the first time hearing Daniel talk about that. So I just want to be fair in saying that, because obviously I don't recall that being said, but sometimes things have been months and it's like that stuff kind of goes out of your mind. Okay, so now we're going to go to let's see here, stop screen, share, and then share screen again. Okay, so before I play this, I'll just preface that, of course, Darren had come on. He was on Dolly's channel at first, and then he had come on this channel a few times to talk. And he was talking about, a bunch of things. So you guys can go back to this live, and listen to fully what Darren has to say. But I'm going to play the part about the blanket, the water bottle, and that. And the only way that Darren would have known this information, as he has stated multiple times in the live, was that from what Daniel told him. Okay, so now that Daniel is saying that, it's the other blanket, but I always remembered that Darren had said that the reason why he said the blanket was planted. So listen very carefully again to what you just heard Daniel say about the water bottle and the sweaters, and what Darren, who is speaking in a sense for Daniel. This is before Daniel, again, doesn't seem to want to talk himself, and he was speaking for Janie and stuff like that as well on the information that he was told. Okay, so I'm gonna hit play. Which one am I on? Gotta find my own darn channel here. I think it's this one. Yeah, okay. So we'll make that bigger. Now listen carefully.
There's another little tidbit I can tell you.
What?
Man, you should listen to what Daniel says about the blanket thing that got turned up on the side of the road.
Tell me about that. Tell me about that, please. Because yeah.
That blanket out there, they only get garbage. They only get garbage removal like something about once a week, and sometimes not for 2 weeks. So the story is unconfirmed by me, but told to me by somebody who's been telling me the truth over and over and over. So the blanket thing was one of the kids' blankets, but it was pretty bad shape, so they decided to throw it in the garbage. So they got a garbage bin inside the house there, so there was some stuff in the garbage bag, and that blanket was one of the things that was stuffed in the garbage bag. So anyway, Daniel noticed after the kids were gone missing that somebody had gotten into the garbage bag and ripped the garbage bag and went to pull that blanket out of it, but the blanket was rotten, and that's why there's only a piece of blanket. That blanket ended up the road hanging from a tree, and it wasn't there for the first day. Actually, it wasn't there for the first. It never showed up, I don't believe, until the second day on the side of the road. Because don't forget, Daniel's got family that lives up the dirt road, and they travel back and forth. And they said they never saw that. They would have seen the blanket, part of the blanket sticking in the tree. It's like a sore thumb out there.
Right.
And then the boot print. I want to say this. Do you know who found the blanket? The blanket piece in the tree?
We just heard that it was family that took them there.
That's right. Malaya's friends and family.
Malaya's.
Do you know who found the boot print up on the pipeline?
Malaya's friends and family?
Malaya's friends and family. They all the evidence except for one little thing. That the only thing the searchers found, and I'm pretty sure now some searcher might come on here and say, "No, I'm full of shit," that they did find something else, but I don't think so. And there was some stuff went missing out of the trailer Daniel checked on too, and he reported this to the Mounties because what he was scared of, that somebody took this stuff, because he was sure somebody planted this evidence.
Right.
And there was some other stuff missing of his, and he was sure that that somebody was going to try to blame him to make it look like an abduction and that he did it down the line. So he reported this to the Mounties right off the start to protect, and it was a smart move on his behalf.
Yeah.
He had 2 sweaters, a water bottle, and something else were taken out of his.
What was it about those sweaters? Because obviously when people listen to it, that it was something like, well, if there's so I'll play a little bit more of this piece, but again, the reason why Daniel denied that blanket is because he thought that, of course, it was being planted against him. And Durwood is also talking about that someone went into the trailer and took out a water bottle, 2 sweaters. But yet, again, I've already shown you that Daniel denies the water bottle. So is he playing a word game there about, the water bottle isn't Jack and Lily's? But again, this is information that Durwood is repeating. And then, so even though there's some tidbits of facts, so the blanket was found on the first day, not the second day, and the boot prints for the second day. But the blanket was actually found on the first day, and Daniel's claiming that it wasn't there. Now, as for Daphne, remember as we played that Spotify one? So if you can see, when I should have had that and showed that, and on Daphne's, you can see that it was between 322 to 352 of that recording from the search, right? So that means that it happened before 4 o'clock, that it was actually found. The approximate time might have been deemed as 4 o'clock, but the true time was actually before that, because according to the, obviously the, what do I want to call it? I'm having a brain fart all of a sudden. What are you guys, why am I can't remember? I'm talking about the audio from the dispatch audio. Thank you so much. So the dispatch audio is before, it's like between 322 to 352. So that's when the blanket was already being talked about, okay? About them finding and family taking them up there and that. So it was clearly before the bus, okay? Before the bus footage. But anyway, so again, so Daniel, again, in the article, is denying anything about like the water bottles and stuff like that. In fact, he doesn't even know, right? You know, like where they put the same, well, they already said in the audio that they already found these items like right in that same area, but they were shown separately. So Darren again is speaking for Daniel, and yet Darren keeps saying how, you know, what Daniel told him. So again, so when you think about, is Daniel telling the truth or is Daniel not telling the truth? Well, again, you know, going back to it, is that he denied that it was the blanket of Jack and Lily's because he thought it was being planted against him, and the sweaters and all that stuff, that somebody not only went into the garbage and took that out, and I have an issue with that part as well, but and then, you know, went into the trailer and took water bottles, sweaters, and whatever. And this is what Darren's talking about. So it's kind of like, you can't really forget that this stuff is being said about the blanket, and Daniel admitting to Darren that, yeah, the blanket, you know, denied it. But anyway, I'm going to keep playing that piece out, and then we'll come back to more stuff. Do sweat like that. I mean, obviously he was typing in Dolly yesterday and stuff like that, but he's mentioned something about these two sweaters, and it's like, well, if they're found with the kids, you know, it almost came across like I didn't have anything to do with it. She took them with her. So what is it about those two sweaters?
Well, that's what he was worried about. That these people, like, they took the blanket, they took the part of the blanket out and set that up to make it look like an abduction down the road. They took the blueprint, they set the blueprint up on the pipeline to make it look like the kids were in the woods. So they were sort of splitting things up. And there was another couple little things that they found. Now the searchers were all through there, and they never found this stuff. But all of a sudden, Malaya's half sister found most of it. Matter of fact, I believe it was Malaya's sister found everything. I think she found the half sister. I think she found the blanket hanging in the tree. She found the boot print up on the pipeline, and I mean, one boot print up by itself up on a pipeline, and I don't even think it was the right size for the kids. What Daniel tells me. And initially, Daniel denied that was the blanket because he was panicking too. He thought, "Holy jeez, that makes it look like I abducted the kids." So I'm going to say that it wasn't the blanket. But now, see,
because
he's let.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
And now he's worried about. He was worried about when he found the two sweaters and a water bottle, and I believe there was something else, one or two things. There was 3 or 4 items missing out of his house, right at that time, and he was sure the same people that were sort of planting this evidence were going to set that stuff up for later on.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right.
Okay.
Right.
And he reported that the first day.
Okay.
So the Mounties had a record of that, and what he was hoping too, and I'm sure the Mounties were hoping, was that when this stuff turned up, they already knew that it was missing, so that would have probably given them a lead on who put it there. So it was a smart move on Daniel's behalf, and it made him look guilty. It made him look stupid, like you just said. A lot of people didn't understand. He wasn't explaining it very clearly as to why what he was talking about in the two sweaters a few times in the water bottle.
Right.
But once you talk to him and you get it, you know, you listen to him, and once Daniel relaxes with you, the more. Okay.
So again, so clearly Derwood explained, and you guys heard, that the reason why Daniel lied is because he thought it was planted. So now Daniel, again, all these times later, right? You're hearing him say, no, this was the other blanket that I was saying, no, it wasn't Jack and Lily's. Darren, again, where would he have gotten that information from? Well, he keeps saying that Daniel told him. So Daniel told him that not only did somebody go into the garbage bag, rip it open, put a hole, but somebody else obviously went and took out items from the trailer, water bottle, etc., and that Daniel lied. So again, it's kind of one of those things, is that all this time later, it's easy to kind of go back and try to cover tracks or change the story up and stuff like that. But I know this is coming out of Darren's mouth, but again, Darren got this information from Daniel, as he states. And this was it. This was the whole time. Because the first time I remember it being said was that Daniel lied to protect Malaya, right? Which would make sense, that being said, because of the fact of, protect Malaya from, and always him trying to say that Malaya right, had nothing to do with this. Like, remember his recent interview? He keeps double talking himself. He keeps putting messages out there that Malaya had everything to do with this in her family. And then he keeps saying, and I know that I had nothing to do with it. I know Malaya had nothing to do with it. And again, it's their own spinning, but it's really Daniel's spinning of the truth here. And again, that's why is there a reason why I can't believe in what Daniel says? Absolutely. It's because again, it's like watching something from the start, because always the truth is near the start. And then as the time goes on, it's easy to insert things or add to things. And yes, we had the documents out there as well. So again, you know, I've shown you this, right? The children's Daniel said the Mountie showed him shirts, a blanket, and a water bottle found during the search, but he said none of them. But we just heard what Darren said, right? Was that someone went into the trailer and took some items, the water bottle, the sweaters, right? Because Daniel felt like he was going to be accused. So he wanted to get ahead of the game, right? And tell RCMP about this. And remember, it's him and Justin that I think it was on, like when he said, I put 2 and 2 together, then I went to the garbage bag, you know, and me and my brother, Justin, whatever, recorded it, you know, and had the RCMP come out. And I believe that was on the 4th is when they came out and collected that. Meanwhile, they probably opened it up more, got their DNA all over the place and stuff like that. So with that being said, so yes, in not the documents that I recall, but in an article, and I'm just going to go to Hunter True Crime here for a second and share screen. So all these creators, thank you to everyone for covering Jack and Lily and, you know, and keeping this case out there and stuff like that. Well, let me just quickly go back to Daphne. No, this is hidden in the fog. I'll come back to that one. And so 1 second here. I want to go to Hunter. Stop screen, share screen. And you guys, I'm not really overly looking at chat too much right now. So just bear with me, okay? Because I just kind of want to go through all these different things that are being said about the blanket. Okay, so Hunter did a video about the blanket. Again, if you're not subscribed to his channel, it's Hunter S. True Crime. He did a compilation of interviews before his latest interviews and stuff like that, but he does a really good job covering videos and that on Jack and Lily's case. But we'll play. Wait, can you guys see this on the screen? Okay, you can. Perfect. And so I'll play this for
blanket. I've kept pretty quiet. I have a son of my own, right? And Lily and Jack are my niece and nephew. But yeah, the subject of the blanket, it was found on a tree branch on Lansdowne Station Road in the evening of day 1. Okay. It was used, or the other part of the blanket was used for a window or a door at the home, and it was thrown out. And this one just ended.
Okay, so sorry, you're right. It was in the documents. That's where I remember seeing that, but it was. Yes, it was the documents. So my bad. I said article, but it was also in an article as well. Okay. So that's where my brain went to. So it says Malaya talked about Lily's LOL doll blanket and provided the following information. Lily had an LOL doll blanket that she sometimes dragged around with her. It was her blanket she used for sleeping before she got an actual bed set. And she didn't want it anymore. So Daniel used it to stop the draft from the front door that wasn't properly installed. Malaya took the blanket from the door because the weather was getting nicer about a week before she threw it in the garbage. Now, it's saying she threw it in the garbage. There was already a piece missing from it when she did that because Daniel ripped off when he put it up. Okay. So to talk about this, so obviously we've heard in the documents that they put this blanket up in the door. Okay, so when was that? You know, was it 3 weeks before, a month before, 2 months before? At the time that this blanket was put up, according to the docs from Malaya, that Daniel had ripped a piece off, right? Piece that was getting straggly, so he ripped it off. And this is where I think, you know, when we go to hidden in the fogs and what Cheryl was saying, perhaps, because my thing is this, we don't know how long. Like, we know that they said that the garbage was in a week. Now, Malaya says that she threw it in the garbage, but clearly on, you guys know all the audio that I have of Janie, 2 hours and 37 minutes. During that, Janie talks about the blanket and how Daniel was putting the blanket, and Daniel talked about it on DT. And his mom, Janie, in her audio clip says that she saw Daniel putting that blanket into the garbage, but yet here we have Malaya saying she threw it into the garbage. So was it garbage then regarbaged and whatever? But my point on this is the small piece of the blanket is that why would a blanket that was used for the door that had a piece ripped off of it back in time be all of a sudden in the same garbage bag as the blanket of the bigger piece of the blanket? So when Cheryl was talking about it being on the rail, I don't know the answer, but I'm going to think that possibly that Malaya had told her, because remember Cheryl's is with Malaya all the time now and stuff like that. And usually to talk to Malaya, you have to get through security dog Cheryl there on, and stuff like that. But now again, on Hidden in the Fog, she talks about on the rail, and she says someone told me. Maybe she just doesn't want to mention the fact that perhaps Malaya told her, but that obviously came from somewhere. Now, would that make sense that it was on the rail? Yes, it actually would, because that would explain to me perhaps that this piece was ripped off at an earlier time and that it was kind of used as a rag or hung over the rail or whatever. But the actual bigger piece made it into the garbage bag, whether Malaya put it in there or Daniel. I'm thinking Daniel. But who knows, right? Who knows if it was garbage then regarbaged. But so I believe that yes, the bigger blanket was in the garbage from taking it off of the door. Okay. And that one made its way. Now, of course, Daniel has claimed that there's been ripped as if somebody put their hand in down there, went to their garbage. Okay. Now, when talking to Malaya in Messenger, and I have those obviously receipts, oh, and I'll probably show those actually, because I do have them. But anyways, so Malaya has said that I don't know why he lied. Like, my family did not know about this blanket. And so even Haley said the same thing. Like, again, why would Haley send me a picture that she took of the blanket if she had planted the blanket? Wouldn't that be silly? That the person who supposedly planted the blanket, like Daniel, wants Haley to be polygraphed and stuff like that. And maybe it's not such a bad idea, right? To have, people that were there or involved in something like that to see if there was to have a polygraph as well. Whatever with that. But at the end of the day, it doesn't make sense that, Haley goes out of her way to go, well, no, that's not the blanket, Sonny. Like, this is the blanket that was the partial blanket found in the tree. And, does it fume her that Daniel is running around, keeps blaming the family and stuff like that, and blaming her? And it was her and Hayden and Emily that were the ones that found the blanket. So where Cheryl came into the picture and the others, not really sure, but Haley said it was her, Hayden, and Emily, which must be, I guess, Hayden, is that Hayden's girlfriend's name, that had found that blanket. So with that being said, again, I kind of think that there could be some credibility perhaps to that secondary piece of the blanket was hanging over perhaps the rail, and maybe that information did come from Malaya, and that's why Cheryl said that. But she really didn't overly want to talk about Malaya too much, right? But again, I'm just trying to say, like, Daniel's talking, or like they're talking about water bottles, they're talking about sweaters. Daniel and Dolly's chat basically said, like, hey, if these two things are found, these two sweaters are found, basically, it was just a random thing he said in Dolly's that day, but basically, like, I didn't have anything to do with it. And I think this is what he's talking about when Darren's talking about, being planted and, thinking that someone went into the trailer, grabbed a water bottle, the sweaters, and then he turned around and said, well, I don't really believe that Malaya took those sweaters. Now, I do have a screen. I do have the screenshots. Maybe let me see here. Do I want to go to? Let's go to Hidden in the Fogs next on this one, okay? But the thing is, with this piece right here, was simply this. You're not going to typically, depending on how long that blanket was on the door for, that rip piece would have been ripped at the back in time, right? So what are the chances that that same piece is going to end up in the garbage, with it? Who knows? Maybe it did. Maybe it did. Maybe it didn't. Maybe because, the only way I could think of that happening is if Daniel grabbed that piece of the small piece of blanket that was part of it from months ago, whatever, months before, weeks before, who knows? Again, I would really like the answer from Daniel about when that was put on the door, because that's the time that he ripped off that piece. So if it was months ago, what are the chances that it ended up in the same garbage? Do you think he would have said, well, yeah, it was, out on the rail, and I threw it in the garbage. But all they're ever talking about is just the bigger piece, and that Mama Janie saw him put it in there and said, don't stuff the garbage too much and blah, 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 blah. And that someone that Malay is saying her family didn't know about this blanket. There's 3 people on the property that know about this blanket, is Malaya, Daniel, and Janie, that obviously know about the LOL blanket and stuff like that. So when all that spirals around, again, who planted the blanket? Daniel says that the blanket was planted, that they told him it was planted. I believe it was planted. So I'm going to take your word for that one, Daniel, on that. But again, this to me is like a huge thing about truly who planted the blanket. Now, we do know that Daniel keeps pushing the fact that the Brookside is planted Tukmalaya. What I would like to see from Daniel then, if you guys keep wanting to claim all this stuff, then you put a timeline together of that morning of when Malaya or her family members, right, managed to take Jack and Lily away during that 20-minute time window, let alone all the confusion about that Daniel was asleep the entire time, according to Malaya, and and they've never really talked about the 8 to 8:30 time frame. But you know what? Put a timeline together then, meaning if you're gonna put stuff out there, Daniel and Darren, right? Then you should be able to back that up then with some receipts and with some truth behind it. If you want people to believe you, but you're not giving us a timeline, you're not telling us when, if the blanket wasn't there in the morning, when was the blanket planted then? At what time do you feel like Haley came and planted that blanket, or someone from Malaya's side of the family, but you believe it's Haley specifically? So if you could just give a timeline about that, about when the kids went missing from the property in a vehicle that Malaya handed them over, and also that you claim that they're 100% alive and you have answers and So exactly. So why aren't you giving us receipts? Why is this being said, right? Why do you think that a dog handler is saying to Daniel about, 2 kids just don't disappear? Yeah, and talking about that. And Daniel's like, again, I think he was very stupid for saying that. And right after the property, I can't believe that they didn't actually have, and it's sad to me, but why they didn't have actual scent dogs. Instead, they're just, air scent dogs, but not clothing, like when you give them the clothing and then they specifically and stuff like that. But anyways, so we'll go over to Hidden in the Fog with Susan, and Cheryl would be talking about that blanket. Every time I listen to this particular video, I can't help but cringe, because you can just feel the animosity or something there, or Logan has a very strong personality, obviously, but it just kind of, when you listen to it each time, you're just like, you can cut through a knife. Okay, so share. Hidden in the Fog. Where are you? There you are. Okay. So we'll do this one. Malaya. Okay. So this is Cheryl, and remember, Hidden in the Fog, Susan. And then she brings up Logan, because she doesn't really know who Cheryl is. But we'll listen to a bit of this. So
to kind of touch on a few things that you said. So we were the ones that actually found the blanket, and as far as I knew, the blanket was on the railing, not in the garbage. And Malaya didn't leave Saturday morning. It was Saturday evening because an altercation had broken out and Daniel's mother actually tried to attack me. So it was well after supper Saturday when she actually left the premises.
Okay. Is that, sorry, is that?
I didn't know if I muted myself or not. I don't know how these things work. Yeah, so I just wanted to.
Okay, so hold on a minute. Hold on.
Yep.
Logan McKenzie is here.
Yep.
Logan, would you mind coming up in the chat?
I can drop down for her, Susan.
No, I have lots of room. Okay, I'm going to have Logan come up because I do know Logan very well. Well, not very well personally, but she's been on the live. I absolutely know her. And I mean, absolutely zero offense to you, Cheryl, but I don't know you. But I do know Logan.
I met Logan over that weekend. I think I met her Saturday, maybe. I can't quite remember exactly who she is, but I do remember meeting her.
Okay, so Logan is going, there we go. Thank you, Logan, for coming up. And let me just say this. I need to warn people of this. We have 142 people in the room. Be aware that we are on the internet. We've got 143 people in the room. There will be twice that watching who are not in the channel. Anybody can be screen recording this and what you say, and it can go on the internet anywhere. So I just want to put it out there and just give a warning before you say stuff. Just make sure that what you say is, Hey, Logan, how are you?
Not too bad.
And Logan knows this firsthand, don't you, Logan?
Yes. My name is dragged all over the internet now.
Yeah, Logan was on my live weeks ago and for quite a while. And it was very, very unfortunate. Somebody screen recorded the entire thing and then splice and dice the entire thing, taking out pieces, not putting in pieces correctly, because Logan actually gave an enormous amount of support to Malaya. And of course that was all removed. So I just want people to be aware that this can happen. So thanks for joining us. So anyway, carry on. Cheryl, what were you saying?
That was just it. That we left Saturday evening, not
after the
Saturday
briefing.
morning.
After the briefing on Lansdowne
No,
Station.
it was after the altercation.
You left, but Malaya didn't.
We all left. Malaya
No.
left with her mother. I left. My sister left. My sister-in-law left. We all left at the same time.
Yes, but the altercation was before the briefing, honey.
And then there was one after because your mother was involved in that one.
Yes, and that's when we were saying about the car. And then I don't know who came back looking for the cell phone, and we were trying to get Malaya's grandmother to leave the house. Yes.
Yes.
But Malaya left right after the briefing. You guys did it. Malaya left right from the briefing.
5 minutes before us, yeah.
Yeah, right after the briefing, up at the briefing. She never came back to the house.
No.
You
so
guys
it wasn't Saturday morning that she had.
No, it was Saturday afternoon after the briefing.
It was Saturday evening. I think around supper time-ish.
Yeah, after the briefing at 4:00.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. And the blanket was in the garbage. The cops even went and found the other half in there.
Yeah, as far as I knew, the blanket was on the railing.
Yeah, no, the cops came and collected the other piece. After the other piece was grabbed from the trees.
Yes, where we found it.
I'm still trying to place who you are, but
that's okay. There's so many people.
So no, go ahead, Cheryl. Just identify, like, how do you know Malaya? You said you were good friends with Malaya?
Yeah, I don't really want to touch on that kind of stuff. Kind of just respecting her privacy right now, but I just kind of picked up on a couple of things that you had said, and I wanted to clarify that she most certainly didn't leave Saturday morning. It was Saturday into the evening after the briefing.
Yeah, Susan probably misspoke because I said that in our
No,
first
that's okay. That's okay.
where we said where she left because I put the baby in the car for her and her mother drove off. But you guys were supposed to come back for Malaya's car and you guys didn't. Nobody took Malaya's car and it got repoed by the what is it? The search and rescue guy got it towed back to wherever Malaya was. So you guys, I thought her stepsister or whatever was supposed to take the car. That was after the whole altercation because they were trying to get Malaya's grandmother out of the house because she didn't want to leave.
I don't know. That's not really relevant to anything I was talking with Susan about. I'm not touching on the vehicle.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew that Malaya did not come back to the house. She left right from the briefing. You left.
Yes, absolutely. I was with her.
I just want to say, Cheryl, it really seems that you're sharing conflicting information between Logan and you. Like, it sounds like, I don't want to sound rude, but like we're saying false things a little bit. And
like what?
Well, you said about you were like coming in here to correct people about the blanket.
Yes.
And
because it was on the railing, that's what I was told.
But if you were there,
on the railing or in the garbage, it doesn't really matter.
Hold on. We need people to just speak one at a time so that everybody in the chat can hear.
Sorry, Susan.
No, that's okay. It's just, it gets really confusing for people that are trying to listen to what's going on. So, DJ is making the point, Cheryl, that, and I don't want anybody accusing anyone on the panel of,
I'm not.
Yeah. No, I know you aren't, but I'm just gonna.
It's something that I noticed. Sorry to interrupt, but.
So she's just simply saying that you had come up on the panel to clarify some things that had been said.
Yes.
And one of those things was that I had said that the blanket had been put in the garbage by Daniel and that I had gotten that from Logan and Mackenzie. Logan is here. She verifies that.
Mm-hmm.
You had said no, the blanket was on the railing. Now you're saying you thought it was on the railing. Is that correct?
No, I was told it was on the railing.
Okay. So are we okay in agreeing that the blanket was put in the garbage?
I really don't know. I don't think it matters. All I know is the blanket was found in the trees up on the road.
Half of the blanket was, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it does matter.
I wouldn't even call it half. Just a piece of it.
Okay. So it does matter where the blanket was. Actually, it is a significant piece to the story.
To the investigation.
Yeah, the mom too says it all matters. So just Cheryl, I appreciate you being here. I really do. I just want to make certain that, and it's not just to Cheryl, but if you if you think something, like you just said, well, I was told it was on, that's absolutely fine. And that's valid to say. Just make sure that you don't put across something as fact that you don't know as fact, but somebody told you or something that you think. Just make sure you make that clarification so that everybody understands.
Right, yeah. Did I see it on the railing? No. Did I see it in the tree? Yes. Did I see it in the garbage? No.
No, but the cop's note was in the garbage.
Yeah,
There's
no,
a whole video
I
about it.
haven't, haven't
That-
asked about
yeah,
it, but
exactly.
yeah.
So, well, I guess we could talk about misinformation again, because obviously that keeps kind of being said that the blanket was in the garbage. Yeah, the bigger piece was in the garbage. The bigger piece absolutely was in the garbage, right? According to, of course, Daniel, according to them taking a video of it being in the garbage. But the part that I think that, well, let me just say this. Obviously, you guys could hear exactly what went on that particular live the minute Logan joined. Logan was cutting her off, and you can see that Cheryl, like, you can just feel the animosity there going on, because I think what you have here is you have like hi Miss Dog Lover, you have Logan, who is of course close to Daniel, and she probably thinks that she knows the full scoop according to Daniel's version, right? And then you have Cheryl, who's on the Malaya Brooks side, who's basically saying on the rail, and I was told. Now, it could be very much that Malaya told her that that other piece was on the rail. And so it's kind of like, it is a big deal, but you can kind of feel Cheryl shut down, because you can just see she's getting over talked by Logan. And then, of course, Susan's basically saying, well, if you don't know it's fact, perhaps she just didn't want to say that it was Malaya that had told her that it was on the rail. I'm trying to keep Malaya out of it. Bottom line is that, again, I really just go back to the, I'm just going to put this up, Jack and Lily, for a minute. Go back to the fact of that blanket was put up in the door. We don't know how long, because it's never been asked. How long was that blanket up on the door when Daniel ripped off that piece of the LOL blanket? Was it weeks before? Was it months before? Because the chances that that piece would go into the garbage, well, you would have think then, if it did go into the garbage, with the bigger blanket, that Daniel would have made reference to that. But no, that's not what he's doing. And again, he had all this time to clarify, right? And like I said, you got Darren speaking out, telling that Daniel lied about the blanket, because he thought that the items that went in there as well, that people put in the trailer, was all planted by the Malaya Brooks family. But Daniel also did state that he believed that the boot prints or whatever on the pipeline were found like later in the night. And so that's came out of Daniel's mouth. So Darren's the one that said that Malaya's family found the boot print. But I'm going to clarify that, to be honest with you, with Haley and ask her, because there's a couple questions that I want to ask Haley specifically, because I know a lot of you guys are kind of trying to remember when Haley talked on Hidden in the Fog, about the drugs that were found, or when Daniel was making all that noise and that drugs were in the bathroom or something like that. And then, when she was talking in a group chat, she was like, no, I didn't say that. And so a lot of people got very confused, like, well, why are you backtracking on that? So I'm going to specifically ask her again about that, just to clarify, right? Because let me put it this way again. It's been talked about and told by two people that Daniel was, that Malaya woke up, because Malaya had said this to both people, that Malaya woke up in the night there, sometime after 12 or whatever it was, and that Daniel was doing meth, in the bathroom and tweaking all night. Now, there's somebody that I think it's Moon. If you hear something in the background, it's my husband watching a UFC fight. And then so Sailor Moon was thinking it's the neighbor. I personally don't believe it's the neighbor myself. I can't see. We know he has a criminal record. Probably most people have criminal records over there, to be honest with you, in that small area, right? A lot of people do drugs and, steal shit and whatever. But I can't see why the neighbor would call in to highlight himself, to say that there was a car that they heard approximately 6 times between the hours of 12 to 5. Now, whether that information about the car is accurate or not, I can't see why someone would try to bring themselves into it and lie about that, thinking that this neighbor that has children himself, would do that. It seems like on the lower pole to me. But of course, if that's what you feel like, I don't think it's, like I said, the neighbor at all. Now, let's see here. I want to go back to I'll bring this up, and we showed it on Charmaine's channel, but I'll just show the whole thing again myself. Oops, nope, we don't want to go there. I want to go stop screen and then go back over to here. Okay, so this was a conversation between me and Malia the night that Belinda was on, and there was a bunch of ruckus going on with that fundraiser, and that something about Malia wanted it put into, part of the money put into something and whatever. Anyways, it was a big debacle. I wasn't paying really attention to it. That's what kind of started off the conversation, was that Cheryl messaged me these screenshots type of idea. And there's this, like I said, animosity a little bit going on there. And so during that live, Cheryl had said to me, Malaya's messaging you, right? So she did, and that's why it starts off at 2, because it's around the other stuff was about the fundraiser stuff and some screenshots, and then it just turned into a conversation that I got to ask some questions. So I got to ask her some questions during that live, and then in the morning I got to ask her some more questions. I just basically gave her a list of questions, but I really think we need to go back to this as well about, Justin has a 5-speed, correct. And right, Justin and Earl Martell, Justin, like lots of people have laid low from both sides, to be honest with you. And I'm just going to make this bigger on the screen again. Okay. Now, if you can't read it, I can't make it any bigger than this. But let's go back to this. Okay, so let's go back to we'll go back to the important things though. Okay, we're not gonna, that's really has no relevance. So, I think I have it so big that I gotta, let's see here. Oh no, hold on. I think I actually made it bigger. 1 second. Okay. So number 3. We don't need to get into that either. Come on, Mousy, work with me. Okay. Daniel is only lying to the media, and I don't know why. He is not lying to the police or CPS, but both of our statements to the police are the same. Well, they're really not. We guys all read the documents, but the media has a completely different story blaming me, so meaning social media, and I don't know why. So we all know that Daniel to the regular media isn't saying anything about Malaya, doing something, or family doing something with the children and stuff like that, right? He was only ever saying it when he spoke to Charmaine privately there and then she had asked him if there was things that he could share and stuff like that. We never shared all the information right away. We shared it over time, and there's still probably things that we didn't share from that whole conversation. But he had made a comment to Charmaine about that, he's looking into Cindy Murray, and that Malaya, of course, is innocent and didn't have anything to do with it. But he believes that Cindy Murray, has something to do with the children going missing, and, that Cindy has something over Malaya's head, blah, 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 blah. So we know he was propagating this all on social media, but not to the regular news. So that's kind of what she's saying basically there. And then she says, I am hurt in a way that no one can understand. I want my children back home with me. And she said, according to what I've heard, I think she's also watched. He apparently likes attention, and it's disgusting. And then let's see. No, because I want them to be. How could a mother think anything else? And I said, you believe your children are alive, correct? Is that because your psychic friend said, or because you feel that they are? And that's how she answered that. And then she said about Daniel, his true colors have unfortunately come out in a worse way. It's like I never knew who he really was. Right? Well, that's kind of how Belinda feels about Malaya by the same token, right? The Malaya that she remembers isn't the Malaya after, getting with Daniel. She said that, no, I can't see Daniel hurting children. She says Daniel, Janie, and Darren's timelines don't match up in media, but that is not what is being said to police. That is why their lies are okay. You can't just get into trouble for lying to the media. And as we know, obviously, we obviously know is if there's stuff being said in the media and the police get hold of that truth, obviously, you're right, your lies will catch up with you, definitely. But in saying that, there's so much redacted stuff on those documents. So when she says, but that's not what is being said to police about their timelines don't match up in media, because don't forget, we don't know what's behind all that blackness that was being said as well. We're only getting a portion, a small portion of everything. And she says, I'm so grateful and appreciative for the support, of Jack and Lily. That's all I want is my children to be found. Let's see. I asked her, I said, I would love to put out a true timeline. No BS, just a true timeline for Jack and Lily. And she said, good question. I don't know. That is what the police want to find out. And I was like, well, I mean, I guess she's meaning that she has no clue, I suppose. She says, yes, I heard the kids in the morning. Daniel was sleeping beside me the entire time from 6:18 to around 9:40 a.m. when I woke him up because I no longer heard them in the bedroom. That is the best estimate I can give at the moment. I was in and out of sleep, dozing off that morning. I then called the police at 10:01 a.m. Their bedroom is next to us. I wasn't aware they went outside. As Janie said, I asked her if I could share the stuff. She said, yes, I can. In the morning, Lily and Jack got out a couple times, but I would always get a call from Janie saying that the kids were outside. I would then bring them back in and get breakfast. For some reason that morning, I never got a call that the kids were outside. I don't know why. She was the last one to hear them. And again, typically Janie goes with her brother Ron on Fridays, but she decided not to on that particular day. And so it does make you, question it. Like, okay, so not only did you not go with your brother to town, but you also didn't call Malaya like you typically do to let them know that they were outside. So, it's just one of those question marks. And then she's talking about her app from school. So we're going to bypass that. She says, I want the awareness to continue. I want the BS to speculations to stop. It's ruining the investigation and blowing up the tip line. Well, again, if the truth was coming out from both of them, then that the bullshit speculation, would have been a lot more minimized. Of course, it still would be there, but when you don't know what to believe and there's inconsistencies and the mother goes into and takes off and then you don't hear from her, I mean, you're not going to stop the speculations whatsoever. In fact, you're just going to increase them for as long as that stuff happens, for sure. She says, well, I will not apologize for being silent for so long. I've been through a lot and I'm still going through more than anyone could imagine. I don't really care what people are saying. To be honest, I only care about getting my children back home. And then this is about the blanket. When I asked her, she said, I don't know why he lied, but my family never knew the blanket was in the garbage, nor did they know Lily's blanket existed, especially my friends. Daniel gave me an ultimatum when I was pregnant with Meadow to drop my friends or he would leave me because they were a bad influence. So I did. He allowed me to talk to one friend, but we didn't talk often. And then, of course, she keeps saying, yes, I want my babies found home safe. Okay, there are a lot. Okay, that's irrelevant. 11 I left out because that was about the CPS, but I will tell you about the CPS because Daniel made mention of it during the live as well on the Drunk Turkey show. So I think it's only fair that Malaya has her side versus Daniel's version because all we ever hear from is Daniel, really. Thank you for helping. Okay, so I think we can go by that one as well. So about the Wade video, she didn't feel bad about Wade. She only felt bad for her mother. My main focus is my kids. Okay, this was the, of course, Google timeline. This is where I asked her questions right? So first question was Darren said he heard said what he heard was a big argument on Thursday that continued until you got home and got into a physical altercation. Any of this true? She said no. Okay, so then we're talking about the drugs. Yes, he is a drug addict. I found out that he was doing drugs the night before I was going to be induced with Meadow. He was not making or selling that I know of. When I met him, I had no idea of his drug use. Again, in Westfield. So someone had asked us in Charmaine's live. So that kind of, right, the timeline with that Edmund guy, it says 11:30 to 12:30 in the documents, but Dollarama was like later than that. It was like whatever time to 1:44, something like that when they left. So there is definitely an inconsistency there. Now, of course, so Daniel, okay, we'll say allegedly Daniel buys drugs, right? And that person worked at the same place as Daniel, and Edmund obviously works at that Savoy sawmill or whatever. Okay, in the documents, you guys see the name Chance Lays, who helped out in the search, right? So Chance Lays, again, is, we'll say allegedly, where Daniel buys his drugs from off of him. Again, Daniel went and got a couple friends, Adam and Chance Lays. So again, Daniel, he wasn't being truthful, at least in my eyes, on DT. He admitted about doing drugs and but Daniel from the Drunk Turkey Show asked him when's the last time he used, and he says, well, it was like a while before Jack and Lily went missing or whatever it was. Well, again, why would Malaya tell two people and that she woke up and that Daniel was doing meth in the bathroom? I think that kind of just goes without saying. So again, let's just cut the shit and get to the truth, right? I mean, if drugs played no part in Jack and Lily's disappearance, then they didn't. But if you're going to tell the story, you should just fully tell the story and what happened during the night. But, to omit stuff and then leave stuff out and then to be inconsistent, obviously you're not going to get people to believe you when you're being inconsistent about stuff. I think, was there anything else? Okay. As far as she let on, she never had a problem with them. That's Janie. She did treat them a bit different than her grandchildren. I was baffled when she said she found them annoying. Yes, her words are BS. I would speak to her and give her sympathy when she would talk about her medical issues and Temu orders she would receive. I was not mean. A mean person. And then when I asked her about the dog, like about the trailer, about Janie not letting him, she said she was worried her dog would get out and bite someone, that police searched it. I mean, again, those are just words, right? Does it make them true from Janie's mouth or from maybe what Janie told Malaya on that one? Who knows, right? Yes, Daniel is very controlling, even to the point of what I wore. Yes and no, he would pick on Jack mostly. Let's see here. I just want to make sure. Did he put his hands on you? Yes and no. And she said he would pick on Jack mostly and Lily sometimes. He would hold me down and take my phone away so I couldn't call my mother. And this happened often, right? He also shoved me into a wall once and then realized what he did and apologized. Now, Malaya's family, and you heard her grandmother say this, that they didn't know about any of this, about anything about how Daniel say what Malaya had said about this stuff, right? And again, being I don't want to say a survivor of abuse and stuff. I just don't like using those terms for myself. When I was in my abusive relationship, I never told my family. I only probably said, I think twice total in the entire 11 years. When Dion did something, like one time I threw, because he was whatever he was doing, and I ended up having a Slurpee in my hand, and I literally just chucked it about 10 feet and it splashed all over him. Oh my God, he started chasing me down. Didn't matter that cars were coming. He started chasing me down, and I ran to her phone. I called his mom and dad, and I was like, I'm afraid to go home because I knew of the abuse, but they didn't know about all that stuff, right? I ended up leaving his ass. And even his family, like my own family, had no clue about what Dion was like and how abusive he was. So I can understand why, if Malaya never told anyone, kind of like what her family's saying there, sometimes you want to do certain things, but you don't necessarily want to tell them everything that's going on. Okay, so that was 16. So 17 was Daniel convinced me to stay, that things would work out. He always said that. I'm not trying to point fingers. I'm just giving you a short summary of what I went through. I feel like you have more than enough. I really want people to start focusing on helping to find my babies, and not focus on all these lies. My babies are out there. I need them home. And that's pretty much, well, where it stopped. And then I had sent her some messages that Charmaine had asked me to ask her. And then she just said, I'm sorry, but I'm not answering no more questions. And I was kind of pissed off about that, because I was like, wait a second, we literally just had this conversation that if you really want to find your babies, right, you know, like, well, let's get some of these things out of the way and get some questions answered and stuff like that. And child, I don't really know what you're going on about now, to be honest with you. I said I'm not, that the neighbor was involved, and I didn't. LOL. Well, you said that you believe the neighbor planted the blanket, did you not? When I was asking that question, you can have your opinion all you want. Doesn't mean it's not my, like, if you want to think a neighbor, but I'm pretty sure you said the neighbor you felt was the one that planted the blanket. So again, I'm not here to tell you how to think at all, Moonchild. You can think whatever you like. Anyone can think what they like. My thing is that I'm not here to care about other people's opinions, because you guys can absolutely think whatever you want with the whole thing, you know, regarding the pink blanket and stuff like that, or your thoughts about the case. My thing is this, is that, and I'm just going to put Jack and Lily back up there, is that one thing that I struggle with is, if Malaya and Daniel, I always feel, and a lot of people have said this, that if Malaya is kind of guilty, then, you know, both of them are. Like, both of them would have knowledge. So what I can't wrap my head around is why Daniel is so badly pushing for this narrative that the children are hidden. It is like, they haven't proven anything about these children being hidden. They haven't given you a timeline of exactly when and who took the children. They're not, like, they're being very dismissive about, oh, sorry, that's my husband. They're being very dismissive about certain information that they're not really saying. So again, right, if they were taken off the property by Malaya's family and whatever, in that 20-minute window that you're claiming that this happened, exactly, then exactly, lay it all out for us. Lay it out when Haley would have planted that that blanket, LOL blanket, in the tree. At what point after the RCMP and all that were there, that Haley decided that she was gonna, you know, rip a big hole in the blanket and go find this piece that's probably not even in that particular garbage, and it was probably more on the railing, that piece, and the big piece was in there. So again, Daniel is the one. Well, I was going to say, lay out a timeline, because Darren's walking around, and Daniel himself has doubled down on this by saying, with the news, right? Now, I see this as a tactic for Daniel to keep pushing this narrative now. Now that he keeps pushing it, now, you know what? Now I'm going to use the news, and I'm going to go to the news, and I'm going to say, well, that's because I 100% believe that the children are alive, right? That's his transition now, to basically come out and push that narrative about that they're alive, and, you know, wanting polygraphs taken. And like on the DT show, right, he was specifically, Daniel, right, he's specifically talking about Haley and taking a polygraph. So again, they haven't laid out a timeline, but yet they're saying 100% alive. Darren's saying that he knows exactly who has the children, that they're better off, and he's not going to say anything to RCMP, right? And but yeah, so guess what? Again, so when we're looking at the blanket, right? Who's the one who came on the live, Darren, And you said the reason why Daniel lied, that's like what Daniel told you. The reason why he lied about the blanket not being Lily's and about the sweaters and the water bottle is because they were trying to plant evidence against him, right? So he's admitting that he lied. So what is Darren and Daniel going to try to fix that as well and try to make an explanation to what Darren said that Daniel had told him? Because Darren was very elongated in his answer about why Daniel lied and how he looked like a fool, but he had told the RCMP about it so that they didn't think he had anything to do with it, right? So with someone that's being inconsistent, right? And this blanket to me is a huge deal. So why again? Why is there a need to lie about water bottles, blankets, and all that stuff, right? And claim that somebody went into the garbage can named Haley, and yet, right? There's not been any evidence at all, let alone the burden of some of their proof that any of this happened. So this is how I feel about it, is I feel, like I said, that there's nothing I can believe with what Daniel says. He's inconsistent. He is the one showing manipulation and deception, right? Okay, Malaya doesn't speak as much, but why is Malaya kind of giving us information about Daniel's drugs and, when Meadow was born and doing it for 2 years? And who's been the one lying about the drugs, right? Who has been the one that's been like pulling teeth? And then all of a sudden recently, Daniel from the Drunk Turkey Show is backing him into a corner. And of course, during the thing, and then he answers it and was like, well, I mean, it was before Jack and Lily went missing. Yeah, what do you mean, like that night, right? Type of thing. They went missing in the morning, but it was that night of, and stuff like that. And again, so when I'm looking at this myself, is that there's nothing that has led the police to anything of credibility from Darren and Daniel about the children being hidden on a reservation. Like honestly, I'm not stupid enough to believe that at all. Why? Because it's BS. They would have found him. Darren and Daniel are not smarter than the RCMP and the Major Crimes Unit. They just aren't, okay? And so if we think that for a second that Darren knows exactly where they are and who has them and stuff like that, and that these people are so smart that they could outwit everybody else, not going to happen. There would have been so much more digital data. There would have been motion moving on. Why do you think Drunk Turkey Show doesn't believe that either? Right? It's because it's not really a viable thing. But again, people on here that want to believe that the children are hidden, again, I can understand it only for the sake of trying to have some sort of glow at the end of this case. And that, but who's the one that's manipulating and who's the one that's lying? So do I really think that Haley's going to send me a picture of the blanket because she planted it out there? Right? Or do I think that Daniel had, opportunity to plant that blanket himself and act like, and then try to portray that the Brookside? So in my personal opinion, looking at all based on all the information, the most guilty party here for planting that blanket, if it was planted, well, which Daniel said the RCMP and whatever said it was. So yeah. So if I was to think that it was anyone, I would think it was Daniel Martell or somebody that he knows that knew about it. But I'm thinking more Daniel, to be honest with you. But either or, that's just my opinion. But that's because it's all based around lies. So why would you lie? If you're telling the truth, then why are you lying? And you're saying that, that you did plant, that you didn't want to be accused, type of thing. So you lied, right? Does that look good on you that you're going to lie about a blanket and you're going to lie about a water bottle and you're going to lie about clothes? And then you're going to say, oh, there's another thing I wanted to show you actually. Well, I think I missed it in the thing there actually. Let me just see if I can quickly grab that one. Just want to see. I obviously skipped over it, but I'll pull it up. Right here. Okay, 1 second. Okay, I'll show it this way. just to make my life easier. Window. Okay, there we go. Okay. I hope this helps clarifies things. As for the sweaters, Logan was right beside me when I packed the few things I did pack in my Puma duffel bag, and I did not take any of his items. I mostly grabbed Meadows' clothes and a couple of my own. Okay? Right? So Logan, Daniel's cousin, was right beside Malaya when she grabbed the items. So Logan would know the truth. But Daniel goes, you know what? Let me change my mind again. You know what? I no longer believe that Malaya, took those shirts or whatever and planted them against me. No. In fact, I believe that she took them as a memory of me and stuff like that. Okay? Now, I do want to go to... let's watch that part right here, shall we? And no, that's not the right one. Let's go to this for a second. Like, everyone's entitled to their own thoughts, absolutely. But honestly, could you imagine that you can't even give a proper timeline or anything about how Malaya and her family managed to get those children off the property, and that you can't back it up with anything besides talk, and that you're trying to portray that no table was moved or chairs, nothing to show that Jack and Lily, he's basically, when he said, like, Malaya just stood in the kitchen while I was running around like a moron, but hey, he's not going to bash Malaya, right? But can you imagine, like, all of a sudden, like, these clips, like these, what do you want to call them? Screenshots where he's saying that he has all of Malaya's clothes, and this is months after. And then all of a sudden he's trying to say now that Malaya left a lot of her clothes with Patty, and that also that Darren had told Daniel from Patty that Patty had said, Malaya, basically, if you need a piece of steak, you can come here. And Malaya told Patty, according to Darren, Malaya told Patty that, no, I got other plans, right? But all we have to do is watch that last interview that says, I have nothing to do with the disappearance. I know Malaya doesn't have. So why, like, come on, you guys. It's like half the time he's blaming Malaya and the other half is saying, meet me by the waterfall. Like, like, I'm not trying to bash Malaya anymore. I mean, he bashed her so much. It's ridiculous. He's pointing fingers and blaming. He wants us to care of the fact that people are accusing him or blaming him or whatever you want to call it, about having something to do with the possibility of Jack and Lily's disappearance. And all he's doing is basically saying Malaya's family did something, right? And bashing them. So what the hell? No, don't care. Care about Jack and Lily, right? You guys can, figure out all your lies between yourself, because obviously, like I said, this is ridiculous. So if I'm going to believe anything, any scenario that could be true, one of the most likely possibilities, my husband, holy shit, is he loud? My God, listening to those boys. But anyways, right? So I'm just saying, who's being deceptive, right? Who's being the most deceptive about that blanket? Who keeps trying to sell the fact that Haley is planted the blanket there? Again, give us a timeline of that then. Tell us exactly when Haley went into the garbage, right? And ripped a hole into it and stuff like that. This is such a joke to me, watching this. And then to have Darren back it up and admit that Daniel lied about it and all that stuff, because Daniel told him that, and about the water bottle and all that stuff. I just don't understand how one person could be this stupid in not remembering the stuff that he says, especially like about Malaya and bashing her, and then just turn around and say that she had nothing to do with it. It's the most ridiculous thing to watch. And so, yeah, if I was going to choose who's the most deceptive person here, it's not going to be Malaya. it's going to be Daniel because he's the one running around spewing the different stories all day long. But anyways, what I wanted to kind of pull up for a second is I only plunked in some of Daniel's words into, right, Gemini AI on that. Shit, man, my husband's so loud. Okay. Can you guys hear them? Is he watching the UFC fight as well? Like, can you hear them? They're like so loud and through a door and, on the opposite side. And they're like, okay, hold on. I'm going to make this bigger. Give me 1 sec. And so bottom line is to me, again, right, is that this blanket has become a big deal. Why? Because it does matter. It matters who planted the blanket there, right? Now, there was someone in chat last night that said that they knew Daniel. I think it was Tay Ray was her name. And she said that she knew Daniel and said that he wasn't abusive and stuff like that. And I had basically said to her, look, you don't know what goes on behind somebody's walls. I didn't tell anybody what went on behind my walls, right? So, like, how could someone say that if they literally don't know the person? Because this happens so much, like even in Sebastian Rogers' case, the neighbors were shocked when they found out about CPS reports and different stuff like that. And they didn't know what goes behind the walls. But anyways, so then I asked Tay Ray, I said, well, what are your thoughts? And her thoughts, she said that she feels like they're past and that she feels like the Martell had side, Mackenzie, whatever side had something to do with it. But not say Daniel, right? But more like a family member that had done something. Now, I mean, I know people are questioning Janie, and Janie didn't take a polygraph, and Janie didn't seem to like the kids, and perhaps Janie wanted to get rid of the kids, and got Uncle Ron or something hypothetically to help. Who knows, right? I always just ask myself. And using Daniel's words, but I don't need to use Daniel's words. If you're telling the truth, then there's no need to lie, right? I can understand not necessarily outing all your deepest, darkest secrets along with it. But if you're talking about a storyline, but all I see, and a lot of people agree with this as well. All I see is Daniel trying to gain strength by talking on Drunk Turkey Show, by popping into lives to reiterate about the children being hidden, by bringing that up in the news now that the children are 100% alive and all that stuff, right? And there are people out there that believe that, and that's fine. I find it quite ridiculous when you look at the entirety of how that would have been plausible, and based around the fact that the same people that are saying that can't give any sort of evidence to prove Malaya, Haley, the blanket. It's just all BS to me, because there would have been something to back it up. And on top of that, they bring in cadaver dogs. Okay. So they bring in cadaver dogs. Why would they waste their money for 1 second on cadaver dogs to look for children that are alive? Okay. They don't believe it either. Why would a dog handler say to Daniel, due to Daniel's own admission, about trying to get a false confession that 2 children just don't disappear, Daniel, and stuff like that? Ask yourself, why are those questions being asked? If Daniel says that they're saying that that blanket was planted, okay, you can just instantly see then it's more underneath a criminal nature that they're looking. If a blanket is planted, right? If it had nothing to do with anything, right, they wouldn't say that they felt like the blanket was planted. So there's times when you don't know what to believe with Daniel and to believe, but I absolutely believe the blanket was planted. Come on now. The same piece of blanket that frickin' is in the garbage, a piece of it that was ripped off weeks or months earlier because it was for a draft, suddenly ends up in a tree, and Daniel's trying to pretend, well, you guys, it wasn't seen that morning. So do. Guess what? Haley's the one, Haley and Hayden, and they're the ones that found the blanket. So that's just more evidence of why I lied, because I didn't want to be accused that it was me. Who does that? Okay. Who does that? Are you honestly, if you're under suspicion, You need to have a call-in so I can tell you where I'm coming from. I don't have call-ins with mine. If I was in the States, but I don't have call-ins with mine. If somebody wants to join a live, they can and stuff like that. Not tonight, but they can. Yeah. You never know who's going to call in, to be honest with you. You get some weird people out there. But again, I'm looking at a whole picture here and the blanket. Does it matter who planted the blanket? Right? Yes, it absolutely does. Because then that tells you if Daniel planted that blanket himself, then obviously they're hiding something about Jack and Lily, right? If Malaya's side hid the blanket, which I don't believe myself, but again, your own free choice. That would mean that Malaya did it to distract Daniel, to blame Daniel so that Malaya could take her children that aren't Daniel's children and hide them away because of why? And there's no evidence and they bring in cadaver dogs. I mean, to me, that's not rocket science. They don't believe that the children are hidden. They don't. They wouldn't waste their time and valuable efforts bringing in human remains detection dogs because the children are alive and hiding somewhere on a reservation with Malaya. It's ridiculous to even think that, to be honest with you. What makes sense is a dog handler saying something like that to, RCMP dog handler saying something like that to Daniel, because again, they know to me where the truth lies. It's just a matter of proving where the truth lies. That's how I see it. Okay. But does that not make sense, people? Like, really? Are you really going to bring in dogs to sit there because the children are alive and hiding? Absolutely not. Okay. It doesn't take a lot of thinking to understand that. It doesn't take a lot of thinking to understand that all the moving parts that would have to carry all this out and that these children still haven't been outed by a $150K reward by somebody else that has knowledge of this and stuff. No. It's Daniel, okay, getting you to believe that Malaya and Cheryl are doing this shit. Hi, McMac. You've been very generous with these gifting and super chats. Appreciate that, McMac. Nice to see you as always on there. So I'm just it's about truth for Jack and Lily, right? It's not about liking Daniel or liking Malaya, or liking anyone really. It's more about just who's willing to tell the truth, who's willing to talk, who's willing to bring answers for Jack and Lily. But anyways, I want to just go over this. So I only inserted them. Oops, I got this up there still. I'll take that down 1 second. You guys, that's what we want, right? Is the answers. So let's get Daniel and Darren to, especially Daniel, to answer all those questions about when the children exactly got removed by Malaya. Not none of this. Well, she was standing there with Meadow in her arm and blah, blah, blah crap. Okay. When did Haley go into this garbage can, take out the blanket and plant it against you, Daniel? When did they go into the trailer, Daniel, and take out these water bottle and sweaters and items and plant those against you? And you say that the children are 100% alive. Again, back it up with something instead of just air and words, because that means nothing, right? We always try to show receipts. Well, Daniel needs to have some receipts then to back up the crap that he keeps saying about Haley and stuff like that instead of just words. So now I punched in one of Daniel's big long, what do I want to call it? Big long blurbs about, the kids. But anyways, I'm just going to get right into this part. Okay. So it says part 1 summary. The message seems to come from somebody involved in a serious event, likely the disappearance of children. The speaker, possibly a family member or close associate, is trying to defend themselves from accusations or suspicion. They want to show cooperation with law enforcement, specifically major crimes and RCMP. Exposing or criticize others, Malaya, Belinda, Cindy, and unnamed family members. That they want to reconstruct a timeline of the morning when the children went missing. Highlight perceived unfairness is how they were treated by RCMP. Accuse a journalist of inappropriate behavior. And then it goes into like a timeline reconstruct and stuff like that. Now, I haven't put everything in here. This was just certain things, but always Daniel's own words. Okay. So There was, okay, motives, the analysis. The speaker is clearly under scrutiny and wants to portray themselves as truthful, cooperative, and wrongfully sidelined. They express frustration that others are being believed while they are not. There's also an anger towards Belinda for allegedly leaking what was meant to be a private info from an investigator, which was about, what was that one about? I don't remember what that one was about, to be honest. They expressed appreciation towards an officer, Oliver, who allowed them to search. The inconsistencies and red flags. The speaker says Malaya estimated the kids were missing 20 minutes, yet the speaker woke up, checked the house, went outside, ran to the cabins, returned halfway. Mom and Malaya had a conversation. If this all happened before RCMP was even called, the actual timeline the kids were missing may be far longer than 20 minutes, or the timeline is compressed artificially. RCMP arrival in 12 minutes. The speaker insists RCMP arrived 12 minutes after the 911 call. That's extremely fast, which we all know that it wasn't 12 minutes, the call, but this one doesn't input the 10:01 time. Let's see here. Too much detail, alibi building. The overall detailed route of the drive, Lansdowne Station Road, blah, 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 trails, etc., feels like someone trying to establish a tight alibi, especially when paired with the statement, I didn't see the blanket in the tree. It feels defensive, suggesting they're trying to distance themselves from a key clue, which I agree. Let's see, change tone towards Malaya and Belinda. First, the speaker is factual about Malaya's responses. Then they start blaming her, Belinda, and Cindy's family for blocking Darren from talking to someone, possibly, I don't know what that meant, one of the kids. Suggests underlying family or custody conflict, which could have relevance to the kid's disappearance. No, that would have been after. Again, it was just stuff that I inserted that Daniel had said, but it wasn't everything, obviously. There's too much shit. Let's see. Okay, I'll just do the final summary because I just don't want to. I just take all Daniel's statements and stick it in there and just say analyze. That's all I do. Final summary. The speaker is trying to defend their involvement, provide an alibi, and express frustration toward others. Their timeline raises some red flags, especially around 911 when 911 was called, because Daniel kept telling Kent that 911 was called earlier than 10:01, and Kent kept saying no, right? Like we have. And then Daniel says, well, I wouldn't believe it unless you have a screenshot. Well, we did have the screenshot of 10:01 from Malaya's side of the family there. And so that part kind of wasn't put in the thing or whatever of all the things that I put in there. I didn't have put the picture in there. But anyway, so it says there are family conflicts, secrecy, and leaks of information, potentially muddying the investigation. The speaker seems emotionally reactive, switching between cooperative and accusatory tones, especially towards those they feel betrayed or excluded by. Okay. I'm going to stop that there. Anyways, it doesn't really matter how I slice or dice it. Whenever I just put Daniel's words into it, it really comes back with someone trying to, either distance themselves, trying to make it seem that they care more about defending themselves, their justifications, than it does about Jack and Lily, type of thing. And you guys all know this, right? That Daniel, Janie, when they're talking, it's always about what people are accusing them of and stuff like that. And it's never really conversations about Jack and Lily. And it's been that way for a long time, to the point that even reporters literally have to ask them. And you notice Daniel says it more now. Have to ask them. So is there anything you want to say to the public? Anything you want to say, with regards to Jack and Lily? Yeah. Oh yeah. So if you have any information, call the, your local law enforcement, local RCMP and stuff like that. But the lives and the interviews are never really geared around that. It's always, Even when you listen to all of Janie's audio, it's like a poor me victim mentality and stuff like that. When you listen to Daniel, it's always about he cares what people think. Why? Like, why is he working so hard to perpetuate that the children are missing so hard? Is it because he's trying to gear them away from himself? Right? Again, speculation, because we don't know what happened. Is there another alternate thing that we're not thinking about that could possibly have happened? But my thing still will come to one of the most critical things is the blanket. And if somebody's going to lie about somebody else planting the blanket and they're going to try to convince us about a whole hidden theory with nothing to back that up at all, you know, and they're going to try to make it seem like someone not only went into the garbage after the fact. The only person that keeps controlling the narrative is Daniel. And to me, again, I'm not stupid enough to buy into all that crap. I'm not, and I'm not going to, because again, you're not going to sit there and say that you lied about the blanket, you lied about the items, you lied about the sweaters and stuff like that. No normal person would sit there and go to the RCMP and go, well, you know what? I'm going to say to someone, well, I lied about this because of, you know, I didn't want them thinking that I planted it. I'm lying about this. And this is why I'm saying this about the water bottles, sweaters and stuff like that. Who does that? So again, I didn't fall off a turnip truck. So yeah, in my opinion, at this point, I believe that Daniel himself, in my opinion, planted that blanket, and he's trying to convince people otherwise. And he's trying to misdirect, he's trying to mislead, and he's just full of inconsistency. So why at all would I not think that if Daniel can say so many mistruths about things, why would I not think he was lying about the blanket? Why would I not think that he's trying to pin it on Haley and try to get us to believe that it's them? This is, to me, a total misdirection of truth. And I think that speaks volumes by the cadaver dogs being brought in and what the handler, due to his own stupidness, put out there about what the handler said to him. And I think that he's trying to be like, look, see, like, I'm putting this stuff out there, like, duh, what a wood stove is, duh, you know. But I think that, again, it's all just a misdirection to me. So I can't believe anything that really comes out of his mouth, you know. Again, the life theory to me personally, well, absolutely, because he found a home, right? Where to me, like, you know, because no disrespect to DT, of course, because, right, if Daniel found himself a home and Daniel wants to talk and Janie wants to talk, you know, so be it. You know, like I said, all channels are not going to be the same. And if they found themselves a home and they want to keep talking and they want to keep contradicting their other statements, go to town, right? Again, I'm not here to be friends with Daniel Malaya or anybody else per se. You know, I want people to talk to me that want the truth for Jack and Lily. And let's put that back up there, actually, for Jack and Lily, right? Belinda deserves it, right? Other family members that maybe aren't speaking out, you know, for their whatever reasons, deserve it. But the people that were part of all of this are three people that knew about that blanket that day, right? Malaya, Daniel, and Janie. So how is it that a piece of a blanket, somebody just randomly goes into their garbage, puts their hand in, goes to the bottom to find a piece of the blanket that probably wasn't even in there in the first place because it was too busy being planted, right? Again, if Daniel says that the RCMP in that said, Daniel, yeah, we believe that the blanket was planted. Yeah, Daniel, you know, hey, Daniel, 2 children just don't go missing, the dog handler says, right, Daniel? You know, so to me, like, for me, it's like almost like the writing's on the wall here with who's trying to deceive who. But I think that the RCMP need proof, right? If they're going to say, if you believe Daniel that he says that the RCMP said that the blanket was planted, okay, it's a criminal case. It's a criminal case then, but they're not classifying it as a criminal case. They're going to put out, like Daniel. I mean, I remember Daniel saying this too. He said, well, you know, since the polygraph test out, like, everyone basically should be leaving me now and stuff like that. But no, absolutely not. You had 4 questions. Malaya, as Daleen had pointed out, her questions were different. And you can tell that by the blacked out part of the redacted questions that Daniel's were this and Malaya's were this, right? If you looked at the redacted. So they were asked different questions each. But am I going to sit there and go, yeah, you know what? Polygraph came out. You were asked 4 questions. Yeah, I absolutely believe you. He's so hell-bent on selling that the children are hidden. Then ask Daniel, you know what, Daniel? Tell us, what do you have to back all of this up? If you want to talk about it and say it, Daniel, then back it all up with some facts and with some receipts. If you want to keep blaming, Haley and Malaya and the Brookside and you got nothing to back that up, then shut the fuck up, right? Because there's nothing there. Now, the blanket, that's actually was in a tree, right? And if Daniel says that the police are saying it's planted, good, Daniel, then you know what? Give us some receipts that Haley planted it. But who's the one lying? That's the bottom line of this all. Is who's the one lying about the blanket? Is it the Martell side or is it Malaya? Malaya's saying, my family didn't even know about this blanket, right? At all. Who knows? I just have a hard time, like I said. How is it, let's just say, if we say Daniel had something to do with it, how is it Malaya could not have known? Is there another option? Is there another option here that we're just not seeing, right? Is there a Daniel Janie thing going on here, perhaps? I don't understand it all. I can't comprehend if there was a vehicle driving between 12 and 5, and stuff like that, then all 3 of them would have heard a vehicle, right? But why is Malaya talking about stuff about Daniel, and stuff like that, and abuse and drugs, if they're working as a team? And why is Daniel accusing Malaya of doing something to the children? Again, the truth isn't being told, you guys. And that's why we sit here going, what the fuck with this case? What is going on? Why? There's no truth being told. We don't know what the truth is because Daniel keeps using all these sea and ocean versions of, when you muddy the water in the sea and stuff like that and blah, 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 then, it becomes murky and what. I swear to God, that man Gould. You know what? I'll tell you, this is what I think about all these quotes that he has about water. I think that Daniel was watching the internet talk about how he always mentions or is mentioning water. Then I think Daniel, who likes to play head games, okay? This man likes to play games. I totally believe that he started using a bunch of Google things, typing it in, and then using water type of references. Why? Just to fuck with people. Just to fuck with people. Honestly. That's a Daniel Martell personality. We've seen the things that he said about Netflix. We saw how about the KFC bucket and stuff like that. We watched Daniel relentlessly. Doesn't matter how much that man I could beat down, when he comes into this chat. There he is, coming in. Doesn't matter. Not a care in the world. Just trying to push a narrative, push his narrative and stuff like that, right? I'm just not sold by any of it at all. I'm just hoping that the truth will come out, Well, she clearly had support from Patty, etc., but who knows? Maybe she didn't want to lose them permanently with CPS. FN just as CPS. Again, my thing is this, bottom line. Since when is Daniel and Darren smarter than the Major Crimes Unit, than the RCMP, that they would have knowledge of these children being hidden? It's ridiculous to even think that, to be honest with you, knowing full well they brought dogs into the search. Okay. They basically, whenever Darren said that the RCMP are a bunch of clowns, why do you think that is? Right? Because they didn't believe him. Right? They didn't believe the whole story he was trying to sell about the children being hidden and stuff like that. Let's look at reality. And the reality in this, and we're talking about facts, right? So let's look at the reality of the chances of these children being hidden, right? Would you bring in dogs to a search for hidden children? Yes or no? Would you? Why would you? And then you start at their place, right? Looking for human remains. Why would you do that if the children are hidden and they believe Daniel? Even Daniel from Turkey doesn't believe Daniel on that, right? So truthfully, we're talking about facts. Dogs are brought in. We're talking about facts that, Daniel posted what a handler said to him, right? Why would he lie? Why would he make that up? It was a stupid call on his part, I feel, telling us that. But hey, you know what? Not the brightest bulb on the Christmas tree, is he? Right? But why would they do that? Why is it that they would have no trace? How is it that Daniel and Darren could outsmart all these people? How is it that he keeps accusing, right, all this stuff about Malaya and then not saying Malaya and all his inconsistencies in this thing? So you tell me who's got the big bowl of crock of shit, out of everybody that's talking, right? So to think that they outsmarted digital data and everybody else and nobody has brought in anything, it just seems absurd. They especially by bringing in cadaver dogs. So, again, so justified to me about that. A very enormous bucket of KFC, or very venomous to KFC. Hiding the children the first day and claiming something else was criminal. Well, I think it was criminal. The fact that, I'm sorry, right? Bottom line is, again, Daniel, I'm not like, DT's like, I'm sorry, Daniel, you're going through all this. No. You are the main cause, you and Malaya, of why you're sitting on lives or talking today, right? It's because of you two. Nobody else. How many cases have I solved? 0. Is there a reason you're asking me that question? So, wait, hold on. That's a lie. Come on now. There is the one case, right? Now, first of all, I want to say that I haven't covered a ton of cases. I've spent long times over one, particular cases. How many cases have I actually really truly covered? I don't know. 10, 12. Sebastian, Nicola Boy. I don't know, 15 maybe. Don't really know. I don't cover cases like like a lot of other channels. I'm not one that flip-flops too much between cases and stuff like that. But yes, someone asked me to cover a case of a missing boy. They didn't know if he was alive or dead. His father came on the channel. I reached out to the grandmother. They didn't know what happened to him, if he ran away. Anyway, so because of us doing that live, he was found in another state, and then his grandma, so he was alive, thankfully. But yeah, they hadn't heard from him in like 6 months. So yeah, I can safely say there was one that they ended up finding him because of doing a live. So yeah. Most channels are not going to, of course, claim to having solved the case. There's a lot of information that's given to the police from channels that help solve cases, absolutely. But I would say that there's a lot that definitely is probably more that don't, and they just spread the awareness than actually having stuff to do with the solving of the cases. So let's see. How many? Yeah, I mean, I kind of take that as, like, when you read it, you kind of take it as being rude. Like, it's like someone saying, like, it feels like someone saying to me, so Sunny, what do you do with your donation money that you get? Kind of feels like that. It might not have been meant that way, but it comes across like that. But text can easily be mistaken. So I don't know if she was truly being rude. Hi, Vesica. My thing. Okay, well, I can answer that back to Bonnie. Bonnie, how many cases have you solved? Let me ask you that. How many cases have you solved? Right? So I'm not really sure if that was like a slight. I don't know if it was, because I've seen Bonnie talking many times. But anyways, this is when I come back to people, is that at the end of the day, I spend my time on my own free will, right? To be part of a community that I never wanted to be part of in the first place. But here I sit today, right? So I'm proud of my work. I'm proud of what I do. Could I have done things differently all along? Absolutely. I can grow. I have room to grow and change how I do things and stuff like that. I always speak from my heart, and I always speak how I like, how my heart or what my voice it wants to say and stuff like that. I don't like BS. It drives me crazy when cases like this happen and all you feel like the truth isn't being told and stuff like that. But so I'm always just going to be true to who I am, and either you like it or you don't, and it's that simple. Either you follow me or you don't. Whoops, I dropped my thing. But anyway, so it's just who I am. I'm going to do something my way. I don't really care how other people perceive it. Like, meaning either you watch the channel or you don't. Either you like me or you don't. Am I going to care in my life if somebody goes, well, Sunny, I'm not going to watch you again? Absolutely not, right? Again, for the people that do enjoy watching the channel, those people will come. People will come, people will go. It is what it is, right? But, it's my channel. Everyone else can create a channel if they want to be a voice for something, if they want. For me, it's my channel. I'll do what I want, say things how I want, because it's my channel. And if somebody doesn't like it, I just don't care, right? I think that people that use their own time to cover things, knowing that I still have a full-time job that I'm doing and stuff like that, and that I still make a lot of time, even though I can't do it when I'm doing nights, obviously, right? I think those are beautiful people, beautiful hearts that can do stuff like that, right? That literally can sit there and go into a deep space that's dark, and that is really miserable, right? A lot of people are cruel and mean and stuff like that, but does it get to me sometimes? Sometimes I just ask myself, like, why do I put up with this shit? I don't need to, right? I don't need to put up with people's ignorance and stuff like that. But then I remind myself that, honestly, those people are always going to be there. But it's like, because I lead my life in a more happy-go-lucky way, in a more free spirit way, why do I put myself in a position and stay in it, knowing that there's a lot of venomous people out there? Because being in true crime, you're under attack by people in the chat. You're under attack by creators. You're under attack by so many things. And then in the real world, like, meaning besides being behind a keyboard, right? It's like, then I deal with negativity in my job stuff, because everything's about issues, right? And it takes a lot out of me. So I always do question, like, why am I even doing this? But I always get brought back to the same reason, is that we can do things to be voices for people. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things that someone can unselfishly do. And right, who cares if it's monetized? Who cares if people donate to a channel? Who gives a flying fuck about that, to be honest? It's how I represent myself for my own morals about why I do something, and the sincerity behind it. That's what I care about. If other creators care about the money cash coming in and stuff like that, or they just do it to use AI now and use it as a manipulation tactic to get more subs and whatever, so be it. That's them, right? But yeah, I really don't have to justify myself, even though sometimes I do, even though I don't really have to explain myself. But it's just, why are so many people, though, always apt to try to tear down people that try to do good things, like Kent and stuff like that, right? It just bugs me and stuff like that, that people can sit behind a computer. Because honestly, I know most of you guys out there, you come say that to my face and we're going to have an issue. Some of you ever spoke like that to me, we are going to have an issue. Absolutely. Right? You want to talk about somebody pinning somebody to the ground, perhaps? Because I know that most people don't have the balls or the guts to say the shit that they say on here to other people, let alone myself, right? You got somebody that's in a wheelchair, right? And who struggles as it is, getting accused of the most ridiculous things, meaning Kent and stuff like that, right? Good thing we're strong enough, you know, just to see the jerks for who they are, you know. I just think that drama is best ignored than fueling a fire over and over again with creator channel drama. I just don't like to really involve myself in that. Yeah, I've talked about other creators here and there, you know, type of thing, especially if they're dissing me, I have. But I really, truly, most times try to stay away from that stuff because there's so many times I could say stuff, but I just hold back because it just causes more drama, right? When their focus is always trying to talk about cases versus, you know, creator bullshit or stuff like that or people bullshit. I don't know. I'll refrain now from commenting any further on the topic and focus on Jack and Lily on there. Hi, Murray. Hey, Gibbo, what's up? Yes, cancel out here doing, yeah. Well, you know what? The world's not going to change. That's the bottom line of it. People are going to be people. People are going to say a bunch of stuff. But what's, again, I mean, I'm proud of myself for where I started and where I am now and how much I've grown as a person. And I can still grow a lot more. I just speak off my tongue, right? I speak what my heart feels. And I won't apologize for that at all. I don't care that I say, you know, that I think Daniel is full of BS and shit. I don't care that I don't really care about them, right? So their mama can care about them. I care about Jack and Lily. Bonnie, I'll go on DT and ask that question. See how long you last. On there. Heart's back. Stay on course, honey. Well, yeah. I mean, I'll just do what I do, right? Again, naysayers can do whatever. At the end of the day, you know, all we're trying to do is be voices for victims first and foremost, and then talk about things and speculation. Not going to hold back. If I feel like somebody's full of shit, I'm going to say that you're full of shit. Not going to sit here and be nice and stuff like that about it. I have to be true to myself, yeah? I can't be anything different than who I am, right? I just like to cut bullshit, get it straight. So give us a timeline. Ask Daniel, give us a timeline of all that stuff. Give us some receipts to back it up, right? Instead of it just being a story that you keep spurting off at the mouth, give us something to back that up, but you can't. That's just it. He can't. Well, thanks, Sailor Moon. Thank you guys. I really do care about the It's a Crime and Shame community, you know, and family. But I understand that people come, people go. I understand that some people get butt hurt over something, you know, and they don't like or something that I said and stuff like that. And then they go as long and then new ones come and stuff like that. I would just hope that people like channels that just always try to be honest and have integrity, you know, always talking about the facts first, you know, or what is deemed as facts, and then speculation and stuff secondly to that, right? Because I would never want to purposely put out false information or lure people into the channel under false pretenses. What kind of piece of shit would I be if I did stuff like that? That's how I feel about it. Doesn't mean others that are creators do the same thing or have those same feelings. In my world, though, I would be like a big piece of shit if I tried to use people to my advantage for the sake of a click or a view and stuff like that. Do I want to hear from family members? Absolutely. Do I really overly talk to family members? Typically from cases or things that I followed? No. But I do agree, right? What other channel has spoken to Malaya, right? There's obviously something that people see in me, right? Belinda saw something in me, right? I mean, Darren has watched this. Malaya spoke to me. Daniel's spoken to me, even if it's in text and stuff like that. People have spoken to Charmaine. People have spoken to Kent and stuff like that. But so we've done a lot of work for Jack and Lily's case to bring you guys information amongst ourselves, the information, right? Because you're just trying to dig for the truth of Jack and Lily. And that's the core of everything about this case. Jack and Lily deserve truth. They deserve people being truthful. They deserve people being voices for Jack and Lily. Because Jack and Lily aren't here to defend themselves or to say. So, got to just push along. And then hopefully at some point, the actual answers come, would I ever apologize? Like, no, to Daniel. Like, if someone wants me to apologize to anybody, that's not happening at all. No, you guys are the reasons why these children are missing. You're the one with the fuckery going around the internet, right? Yeah, Belinda's okay. Catastrophe. She had a hard day, of course, because it was the 5-month anniversary of Jack and Lily and stuff like that. She has a lot of stuff going on, right? But Belinda's a warrior. Chelsea's, her daughter's got her back as well and stuff like that. But yeah, she's doing it. Like anything, right? She's doing as best as she can. But I mean, it's been 5 months. I'm sure she's like exhausted. But it's kind of like when I've gone through things in my life, it's kind of like if you do too much downtime, you can really fall inside of a rut. So with me, I always kind of block things out so I can move forward. So that's how I kind of feel about Belinda, is that if she has to think about the sadness of truly the gist of this case, which is her 2 grandbabies missing and no idea, no answers. But she has to keep herself busy with trying to talk about things or do things just to kind of push it to the side a little bit about the, just how deeply the hurt and stuff that she feels inside, sorry, just give me 1 second. Just drop something on the floor and I just want to pick it up. Give me 1 sec. Wow, Marie, it was my vape I dropped on the floor, but I couldn't find it because it fell down and then it rolled underneath my chair. But that's what it was. It was my vape. Not gonna lie. Yes. Jason said it himself. He didn't. Okay. Someone said about a recording, but I'm not sure. Mona Lee. Yes, honey, you were the only one I wanted to give that link to for the medium from there. Thank you, Mona Lee. Yeah, no, I truly appreciate, like, what I appreciate is true hearts. Okay, I appreciate people with compassion and care, and that they're truly they truly understand this channel and who I am as a person. I hope that people see a really caring person deep inside that gets frustrated, sure, with lies and stuff like that, and bullshit. But, like I said, I've lived my life like this my whole time. I know that. But I do appreciate people that understand that when they come here, they're like, Sunny's coming from a genuine place. She just tells it like she is, or she says type of thing. And always tries to bring a timeline or facts to the case first and foremost, right? I don't like to bring a lot of rumors or stuff from Facebook groups that are just a bunch of, crap. I prefer to have things about family being said, like family talking screenshots and stuff like that. And then we derive from the best of our ability what we feel about a case. And, so I do appreciate the love from you guys. I do. So thank you. Oh, absolutely. That's probably one of my biggest heartbreaks is yeah, you caught me, Murray. Is thinking about not just Belinda, but especially Belinda, just about how any person would feel in this situation, having, like, in this particular case, I'll say, for Belinda to not only have 2 grandbabies missing, and then to be part of something in the news and everywhere, was a day that she woke up to that she never expected in her wildest dreams. And then to have it play out like it's playing out on top of the heartache and pain, and then to watch, her ask Daniel, to talk to her and stuff like that, and to tell her, you know, and just to see that type of pain in somebody, and to wake up with a hole of not having answers, is, to me, just the deepest pain that anyone could feel. There's a difference between someone being murdered and you feel the sadness and grief of that, but yet you were able to do a proper burial for your child or friend or loved one or stuff. But to literally have no knowledge, and then to watch this transpire into a case that's turned ridiculous into a circus act. And Daniel calls it that, but Daniel, you are the reason. You are one of the main reasons why this is a circus act. Same with Malaya, to be honest, because her actions have been so strange. So it fueled a fire that people wanted answers to. And so here we sit today, 5 months later, realizing that every day that Belinda wakes up, and other family members with just wanting to know the answers, right? So, I mean, if Malaya hasn't changed her story to her own family, right? What are they going to do? Force it out of her? If some of the family members feel like she's not telling the truth, then what are they going to do? It's like trying to get Daniel to admit to the full truth. Sunny, what do you think of the idea of following what Ellie are doing? What do you think about the idea of following? I'm not really sure I actually understand that question. Can you rephrase that one for me? Because I'm not really sure what you're meaning by that exactly. Could you, Mary? Night, night, Angel. Truth and justice for Jack and Lily. No. Malaya can talk if she wants to. I mean, yeah, we were told about her lawyering up and stuff like that. And Malaya could be quiet for like whatever reasons, to be honest with you. And that's the thing. And I know that if Daniel didn't speak out and stuff like that from the start, like there would be so much speculation between the two of them regardless, because people find it odd when, like, especially when parents don't speak out about their child. But I mean, you just got to go as far as the Delphi case, and he didn't have anything to do with the children, but he didn't speak out for his own daughter, right? He let his mom and dad do it all the time, but actually, to be honest with you, this case would be in true crime land. This would basically have gone to the wayside, this case, to be honest with you. Because again, if things aren't coming out and there's no new information, they just dwindle away, right? So, oh my God, my husband. So, Daniel can pat himself on the back for, going to the news and, stuff like that, and, keeping the story out there. Again, whether it comes to bite him in the ass or not is the day we'll have to wait and see, right? But that's just what happens. Even myself, right? It gets old covering the same stuff over and over again, right? Meaning when there's a lull and there's no information, after a while, you just kind of move on, to other cases and stuff like that. It just happens, right? I'm not exempt from that as well. I haven't been covering Sebastian Rogers' case like I was, because after a while, it's just like, how many times can you keep talking and talking about the same things, really, and then a new piece of information comes out, like in Jack and Lily's case, and then it gets talked about again. But honestly, this case definitely would have fallen out of most lives and stuff like that, and so like I said, Daniel can kind of pat himself on the back for that, because everyone is looking for the truth and answers to Jack and Lily. But it just is what it is, right? Yeah. I mean, I can only cover this case for so long too, depending on how long it goes, right? If there's just nothing coming out, then you just bring awareness to it. But yeah, there's other families, there's other news to talk about and stuff. But I just follow my heart when I do something, right? I just, like, when I feel like it's redundant and I got nothing more to offer, in a sense, then I move on, because I obviously, I can't do things without it being genuine, right? So again, right now I'm not at that point with Jack and Lily, but we'll see how long more this goes, right? Because it gets very weighing. And again, I just can't keep talking about the same stuff over and over and over again. Like, who knows? Is it going to be this year? Is it going to be next year, 3 years from now? Right? And that's the hard part, is that, again, family members, they're the ones that want the biggest answers, of course, first and foremost. But it's just cases, they come and go. They do, right? Because there's just nothing to really keep them out there and active. And then there's cases like John Benet Ramsey, Madeline McCann and stuff, like, people are always still talking about those cases. I know for Canada, this case is big for Canada, but it's not at a point where I consider it cold, and it's not at a point where I'm, tired of talking about Jack and Lily's case and stuff like that. But again, we'll see how it plays out, Sebastian deserves answers. Lots of children deserve answers. Jack and Lily deserve answers. Tinkerbell, what are you saying? Ben, how the hell are you? Tinkerbell Sunny, did you say something? And sorry, I'm kind of looking at my time going after work at 6 a.m. Good night, April. Did you say something, Tinkerbell? I mean, I can try to ignore you more if you want. Sunny, I can hear you. I know, honestly. And they're British little bitchy, high-pitched freaking laughs when they get going. See, listen to these two. Sunny, if there's ever a lull case, we can discuss and learn and maybe talk to someone who does criminal psychology and stats in cases like this. Yeah. Those thoughts go through my head and stuff like that as well, right? I mean, I remember reaching out to Cellbrite before, not from this case, and I was like, never heard back, because, it's interesting listening to professionals' thoughts and how they extract and what they do and different things like that, right? Or talking to, police officers and stuff like that. But I'll say even more Canadian police officers, because obviously we're different than the United States in a lot of ways when it comes to how we handle cases and stuff like that. If I wasn't working full time, I'd probably find more time to do stuff like that. But it is kind of like hard to work full time, try to do lives, try to keep up with things, and try to do things and plan for them, especially when my shifts can every 2 weeks change and stuff like that. And plus I have to have my own downtime, on top of all of it all. So I didn't mind, although 12 to 8 shifts suck. I kind of didn't mind the little bit of a breather from doing lives, to be honest, just so I could, when I got home, then I could just look at the happenings of what's going on and just kind of lie in bed with my iPad. And then, after I was tired of looking over things, then I would just watch like X Factor and just chill and relax and stuff like that. And then Groundhog Day, kind of do it again. So I didn't mind the little bit of a break there. And my twin sister moving away, and just there was a lot going on during that time as well. I believe that they will be found soon, not alive. Oh, you were just saying hi. Hi. I agree, Debbie. I don't think. Sorry, Sunny. You asked me to clarify. Oh, you asked me to clarify. Right. Did I miss it? See, I forgot that I asked you to clarify a question. Oh, like DTS goes by what law enforcement do. Thinking about that for a second. Give me a moment. Like, well, first of all, DT doesn't, first of all, know Canada and Canada RCMP and how we work out here. He would know more stuff in the United States that way. But obviously, he's talking about documents and information. And, like DT is, for the most part, just strictly going by what he would deem as, I would call, factual, like the factual information that's coming out by law enforcement. I don't know why, but for some reason, your question, she means like, does DT go by only RCMP? Yeah. I mean, I'm just trying to visualize. I know when I was on the live, and I'm just trying to visualize, because mostly he's just trying to look at it from what he would consider a place just of information and what it's showing, right? Like that about the polygraph tests, about why am I stumping over this a little bit? So to me, he's just going by like the straight information that he feels is out there, and that there's nothing to show at all, whatever, that, based on the information from the documents about the polygraph and what's in the thing about the timeline and stuff like that, that there's nothing really to show that, Daniel or Malaya, and that had anything to do with it. So, okay, there's a lot of us that will disagree with that, because beyond the documentation is someone's and people's actions to kind of go into that. Daniel from the Drunk Turkey Show, he cannot go back to what people that have been following the case from the beginning and have watched Daniel's antics and what he has said. And you basically have to live in our shoes to fully understand what we saw with Daniel Martell and his actions, and throughout the whole time. He will never understand the fullness of that, and that's why a lot of people will keep saying, well, like, you need to go back to the beginning. But even if you went back to the beginning still, I would say that beyond what's put out there in, say, documents and stuff like that, that Daniel's actions have not represented truth or transparency. And we know that from following the case. And we've saw everything that Daniel has been doing in this time. And he has not seen it like that. So although he might think that he has knowledge from this source and that source and this source, when you're physically following the case from the start, right, there's no pulling the wool over our eyes with stuff. So we see it from a point of beyond the information. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question properly. Tinkerbell, I'm ignoring you. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question fully, but I think that Daniel is based around, okay, there's nothing to show that Daniel, or Malaya did anything. Yeah, there's some things weird there, but there's nothing to point that. Whereas to me, it's like, yeah, there's the documentation, but we got 5 months of somebody that's been trying to be inconsistent. So we know every single inconsistency that's been said, the screenshots, I shared a lot of the stuff with the Drunk Turkey Show. Like when he was first following the case, I shared with him, Belinda's, Malaya's, all these different things that I had from conversations and stuff like that. But he's just looking at the bare bones of it. I think, there's nothing to show that. A lot of people I know, I don't know if I'm answering it properly, to be honest with you. It's Crime and Shame, Tinkerbell. Yeah, I'm not taking anyone up on the live tonight, though. Yeah, I'm not, because I'm going to be heading off in a few minutes on this one. If there's another time you want to come up, but not tonight. You can tell I'm already freaking tired as it is. My information, a criminal psychiatrist, is not always so much in what is said and done. It's the unspoken words and the actions of people that can often be the real story. For me, I look at it all, right? It's not that I ignore, because I don't ignore the documents. Like, great, you took a polygraph, you answered 4 questions. Then why are you guys both acting strange? Why are you telling inconsistencies? Why are you saying that you had to lie about the blanket being Lily's and all these other things? Because, like, people, this isn't normal, right? It's not normal. So I think that people's actions and stuff like that, again, what they're saying, what they're not saying, and all that play into where the truth lies and stuff like that. I'm not, like, myself. It goes beyond documents, right? It goes beyond those things. Obviously, when you watch those investigations where they bring people into the rooms and stuff like that, right? They're scrutinizing the behavior, how the person's sitting, kind of like, hands up, hands down, all that different stuff. So just normally I look to read between the lines. I look at the inconsistencies, because who wouldn't, right? Like if 2 children are missing and there's inconsistency in the stories, who wouldn't put that underneath of a microscope and try to understand why this was being said? But when there's so many multiple of them and it becomes ridiculous, then to me, it's to the point of, okay, now there's nothing you can say to me anymore, unless he wants to connect those dots properly to explain them all away. Okay. But if not, the only time I'll believe anything out of your mouth is if the investigation says you literally had absolutely nothing to do with the disappearance of Jack and Lily, but you do that you did have neglect on Jack and Lily type of idea. not what I wrote. I plead the fifth. Swift change. I don't know. I don't think that he is stupid. There's a reason. Oh, well, no, if you guys don't think that DT is being sincere, DT is absolutely being sincere, right? Like, he's being sincere, right? What he's saying and putting out there, it's not like he's an idiot. Absolutely not, right? But he's giving them the, like the benefit of the doubt, obviously, right? Whereas the benefit of the doubt ran out a long time ago with, Daniel telling a bunch of bullshit and stuff like that. Like that was for me, months ago, in a sense, with Daniel. And most of it's just entertaining the shit to what he says, really. But no, DT, if he says that he doesn't believe that there's, like their involvement, and he's not trying to pull the wool over your eyes, type of thing. I mean, if there's something that leads him to think that there's suspicion towards Daniel and stuff like that, then so be it. But no, DT is who he is. He just says what he means. And, some people think, well, is he playing Daniel and up, type of thing? And no, he's just letting them speak and, and has no reason, I guess, for his own self, or the way he works. There's everything to show that, say, Malay and Daniel didn't have something to do with it versus is. But this channel doesn't see it that way at all. Because, again, we've watched it from start to where it is now. Yeah. Are you on tomorrow night? I don't know. Maybe not. Probably not tomorrow night. I don't think so. I don't know. Never say never. Daniel has been caught changing stories and admitted to lying. Why does DT think he wouldn't to him? Well, again, it's how he sees things versus how, this channel sees things. And at the end of the day, I think it's a good thing that channels see things differently, because it really gives us still room to ponder and stuff like that, But I'm not going to, like, if Daniel wants to keep talking, and share things, and go to town, dude. You found your little comfy home, on a bench talking on your phone to Daniel from Drunk Turkey Show now and stuff like that, have at it. We're just looking for the truth for Jack and Lily, right? But at what point does it get old listening to stories change, right? All you're looking for is answers for Jack and Lily. So just, I can't even say tell the truth anymore, because even if he told what is the actual physical truth, I still wouldn't probably believe him, because he's gone past the point of no return for me kind of wanting to believe anything Daniel says anymore. Like, I just couldn't take anything he said as being truthful. Like, even if it is truthful, I still can't take it as being truthful, because there's been just too much bullshit with this case, and he's the root cause of that. I feel all doubts are focused on D. Malaya. Family actions are doubted by me. I hear DTS going by the LE, and if he discovers any of them, he'd quickly change to and verbalize it. I gotta read that again. I followed for 1 month in. I feel all doubts are focused on D. Malaya. Family actions are doubted by me. I hear DTS going by LE, and if he discovers any of them, he'd quickly change and verbalize it. Oh, okay. Again, well, I'd say for me, it was about after a week that I was following the case from the start, but about a week I did my first live on this and stuff like that. Now, if, like I said, most of these cases will always have something to do with family involvement when it comes to children. The probability is the highest factor that the children, like family members or somebody that knows the family, are usually the ones that are going to be responsible most of the time for these type of cases, and stuff like that. again, when you just look at the bigger picture of it all, the likelihood of children going into the woods, especially when Lily didn't like bugs, and to think that Jack and Lily could hurdle over these logs and just traipse out away from home seems absurd. Now, if Jack and Lily would have fallen into a well or something like that, and got covered up, like goofing around. But again, 2 kids, one child, it's harder to believe than 2. So none of the family believes it. They don't believe they're out in the woods, like the RCMP and stuff like that. They've done a vast search, but there's just still that small possibility, right? They can't say never because they just don't know what happened to Jack and Lily. To think that a random car is going to come pick up Jack and Lily, that both of them, and suddenly, all of a sudden, one car stops and they happen to be that random person that just wants to take kids away, and stuff like that, seems ridiculous. And even Janie said, like, I've lived here for 26 years and no one really believes that. So we're really kind of left with the 2 sides, the missing, the hidden by Malaya Brooks Murray side, or the fact of family involvement. Is there possibly another option out there? Yeah. What it is, I don't know. But again, for me, you look at what's going on, because obviously what the police are saying, what family's saying, and whatever means the most when it comes to trying to create a timeline. But when there's deception going on, and there's lying, and you're trying to distance yourself and act like that you're going to get ahead of the game by saying and lying about the blanket, water bottle, and the sweaters and stuff like that, and when you're going to keep propagating this, and then to watch the actions inside of the true crime community of how Daniel's been handling things, honestly, it's just like watching a Joker, keep popping out. Remember that freaking thing where you're, do the musical thing and then pop type thing? That's what Daniel reminds me of, like this freaking clown that just is like, do. Oh, let me go into Sunny's chat. Do. Oh, now I'm going to go into this chat that, Justin's. Now I'm going to do. And to watch it visually is like such an utter joke. To watch these games that he's playing. I mean, all you have to do is look to Malaya's conversation about the manipulation, the controlling, ways of Daniel Martell. I mean, this guy is trying to push a narrative so badly that it's actually absurd to watch it, because he's so badly puffing out his chest lately to sit there and keep pushing the Malaya side of the Brooks, stealing these kids and hiding them, right? He has no explanation. He has no receipts. He has no timeline to say all this besides it just coming out of his mouth. And so, everything included, what's going on with the dogs, the cadaver dogs, why they were brought in and stuff like that. Again, are they looking for missing people? No. So what's the most likely side is that there's family involvement that knows the answer. Now, does that mean it's 100%? Absolutely not. There could be something possibly that we have no clue or overlooking, because we're only getting the information that we're given, right? We obviously don't know what the RCMP know, but like, what other options are there? There could be other options, right? Someone thinks maybe a neighbor, but it's kind of like, agree. What I meant in those elaborate stories was not said and done on this one. Sunny, does the BS that you've understood it, Danielle, does it overweigh Malaya's actions in your mind? I'll have to say yes, but I don't for 1 second always think about Malaya's actions. But it's just that Daniel has such a ton more to pick from because he's the one that consistently has been speaking. So in my head, I feel like I believe Daniel Martell is just lying about all of this. And because he is in myself, to me, he has proven to me that he cannot be trusted or believed. Whereas Malaya has less, but I definitely still question her actions, why she is doing it. If Malaya was more vocal like Daniel's being, there would be a lot more to go by. So by Daniel's own actions, I will say I would definitely, in my opinion, include him if there was family involvement, just based upon his actions himself. Malaya, I get torn over about, but I typically include Malaya as knowing as well in my brain the truth. But I'm always trying to search for, you know, besides the other options, just going back to the main one that I feel like, I always keep trying to understand why Malaya did what she did, in the sense of how could Malaya, if Daniel was part of this, then how could Malaya not be part of it as well, right? How could Janie not have knowledge of it as well, you know? So that's the part that I have such a hard time with, because I'm trying to understand if there's a possibility that Malaya could not have known if something happened to her children and Daniel did something. But it just seems so far-fetched to think that if one didn't know, that if one knew, the other knew as well, and stuff like that. So I don't know. But I do feel like Daniel's actions have already led me that I don't believe you. Does that mean he's still guilty of something to do with Jack and Lily? No. But what? But you can't help but say to yourself, well, if you're lying about this, you know, and you're lying about a blanket, like, what else are you lying about? Well, you must be lying about the family having knowledge too, because, you know, why are you bullshitting people? Why are you BSing? You know, Malaya, she's just freaking laid low, and basically very little have heard from Malaya whatsoever. Is it guilty knowledge of what happened to the children, and she's trying to represent that? You know, possibly, right? Nobody has put any emotions behind Malaya for, like, Wade didn't, Belinda didn't, you know, family members don't, right? Like, where's the emotions of two children missing? Like, where's this grief and sorrow that you should be having as a mother if two children are missing, right? I mean, especially when it's coming from Wade. Malaya was living in that house, right? And stuff like that. So how why would Wade say something like that if he wasn't like those three people need to be arrested? Like, your own freaking family is basically calling you a liar, right? Like, for Wade, right? So again, as far as we know, Malaya hasn't changed her story to her family, you know, and I'm sure that some family members are frustrated with what the fuck, two children are missing. Like, but again, if Malaya's not speaking about anything else and that's her story, right? Either they have to believe it or they can choose to believe she's lying and knows more. And then that came out in pretty much Wade's conversation, like, bunch of liars. So I think that's very telling in itself on there. You guys, I'm so tired. What did I say again? Janie, unorderable. What did I say again? See, I'm so lost right now. Jack in the Box, that was it. Like, sorry guys, I'm like very tired, and I shouldn't even be doing this live anymore, because it's like your words, your comments are like going over my head and stuff like that. But I do, you know what? I will play out that part one more time from my own live, because I feel like you guys really should hear it again. So 1 second. When we'll just do it from this part. I just want you guys to hear it one more time, right? Because I just think that this is so telling of everything that we keep coming across. Like, I hope I'm being like clear on the sense of Daniel and Darren, they don't have any receipts for anything they're trying to say about these children missing. Zero, nothing, zilch, like nada. Okay. So if they're going to claim something, especially something when Daniel is part of this whole case, right? And you're going to put out those claims, then why aren't you backing it up with, you know what? I can prove this, this, and this, and this. I can do this, right? Why are they bringing cadaver dogs? Because they don't believe him and stuff like that. Why is the dog handler asking him these questions and stuff, right? So these are all very telling things about, because they don't believe the children are hidden. And most of the consensus is that the children are not alive, right? But anyways, we'll listen to this part one more time, because I just think it's important to what Daniel's trying to spew out there versus when Darren's speaking from what Daniel told him. Whoops.
Evidence, except for one little thing, that the only thing the searchers found, and I'm pretty sure now some searcher might come on here and say, "Oh, I'm full of shit," that they did find something else, but I don't think so. And there was some stuff went missing out of the trailer Daniel checked on too, and he reported this to the Mounties because what he was scared of, that somebody took this stuff, because he was sure somebody planted this evidence.
Right.
And there was some other stuff missing of his, and he was sure that he was going to that somebody was going to try to blame him to make it look like an abduction, and that he did it down the line. So he reported this to the Mounties right off the start to protect. And it was a smart move on his behalf.
Yeah.
He had 2 sweaters, a water bottle, and something else were taken out of his.
What was it about those sweaters? Because obviously when people listen to it, that it was something like, well, if there's 2 sweat like that. I mean, obviously he was typing in Dolly yesterday and stuff like that, but he's mentioned something about these 2 sweaters, and it's like, well, if they're found with the kids, it almost came across like I didn't have anything to do with it. She took them with her. So what is it about those 2 sweaters?
Well, that's what he was worried about, that these people, like, they took the blanket, they took the part of the blanket out and set that up to make it look like an abduction down the road. They took the boot print, they set the boot print up on the pipeline to make it look like the kids were in the woods. So they were sort of splitting things up. And there was another couple little things that they found. Now the searchers were all through there, and they never found this stuff. But all of a sudden, Malaya's half-sister found most of it. Matter of fact, I believe it was Malaya's sister found everything. I think she found the half sister. I think she found the blanket hanging in the tree. She found the boot print up on the pipeline, and I mean, one boot print up by itself up on a pipeline, and I don't even think it was the right size for the kids, from what Daniel tells me. And initially, Daniel denied that was the blanket because he was panicking too. He thought, "Holy jeez, that makes it look like I abducted the kids." So I'm going to say that it wasn't the blanket. But now, he's
because go ahead.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
And now he's worried about. He was worried about when he found the 2 sweaters and a water bottle, and I believe there was something else, 1 or 2 things. There was 3 or 4 items missing out of his house, right at that time, and he was sure the same people that were sort of planting this evidence were going to set that stuff up for later on.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right.
Okay.
Right.
And he reported that the first day.
Okay.
So the Mounties had a record of that, and what he was hoping too, and I'm sure the Mounties were hoping, was that when this stuff turned up, they already knew that it was missing, so that would have probably given them a lead on who put it there. So it was a smart move on Daniel's behalf, and it made him look guilty. It made him look stupid. Like you just said, a lot of people didn't understand. He wasn't explaining it very clearly as to why what he was talking about in the 2 sweaters a few times in the water bottle.
Right.
But once you talk to him and you get it, you listen to him. And once Daniel relaxes with you, the more you're with him, the more he relaxes. And
like, I just wanted you guys to hear that again. What Darren said, the reason why Daniel lied about the blanket, the water bottles, and the sweater and stuff like that, again, that came from Daniel, that Darren was repeating back. Now, don't get me wrong. Darren can make certain mistakes about a few things, but the gist of everything that he had said there was because exactly what Daniel said. The reason why he lied about the blanket and the water bottle and sweaters and stuff is because he felt like it was all being planted against him, right? That's his narrative. Yes. And that's the thing, Christine, right? Anyone paying attention to this case the whole time, right? Poor Daniel, Daniel went through, he called their names so much it hurt. People will never see the fact of, that I went through water, almost got impaled by sticks and all that for Jack and Lily and all that stuff. But if you ever listen to Daniel, it's really always about what Daniel has done. It's always, always, always about let's bash Malaya from Daniel's mouth. Why? Daniel's pissed that Malaya left him. Okay. Now, again, I was told by Haley that Malaya, like she seized that moment to finally leave Daniel. Now, does that do with anything of knowledge of Malaya and knowing what possibly could have transpired the night before? Don't know. But she was trying to leave Daniel's ass multiple times, right? Now, Daniel, remember, he just wanted to go back to the old Daniel to meet Malaya underneath the waterfall again. Really? Would you want to go back to a controlling person that told you what to wear, how to do things, make you get rid of all your friends, including kind of like your family, and distance yourself? Like I said, let's look at the person that Daniel is and what Daniel has shown himself. And then tell me that Daniel's story about these children are hidden, that everyone's going against him and trying to blame him when he's trying to push this whole big narrative about Malaya. So would you truly want to believe somebody that's pushing a hidden theory that all of a sudden is going to come to no wash, right? But the thing is that one day this case is truly going to be solved, with Jack and Lily. But the thing, again, are you going to believe somebody that literally is a controller trying to control what somebody does, that they literally jump on them or whatever to hold them down, to take away their phone? What does that tell you? A person that's doing drugs, a person that's deceptive. So you're going to believe in a story of somebody, two children that are missing, and the police and that, honestly, they're laughing in his face about that. Let's get real. They're laughing in Durwood's face about that, right? The cadaver dogs coming in is just a beautiful piece. Thank you for bringing those in, because that tells you right there that they would not waste their time and effort if they truly believed that the children were missing. Okay, guys, it doesn't make sense. You would have to make so many factors work in that favor to even make that make sense, but it doesn't make sense. I'm sorry. My honest opinion, the children are deceased, and it's just a matter of finding where those children are. And Daniel, he can try to narrate his story all day long, but the truth will come out. But the question becomes, are you going to believe in somebody that is shown to be narcissistic, controlling, abusive? And you're going to sit there and be and drool over Daniel's words about him saying that he lied about a blanket, lied about water bottles, lied about this, trying to make us believe that Malaya took those shirts now so that she can have a memory of him. No, Daniel, she wanted away from your controlling, abusive ass. That's why she left. She sees the opportunity. So we don't know what happened and why Malaya has done her actions the way she has, what happened that night, what happened to Jack and Lily and stuff like that. But if there's one thing that it's clear, is that, are you going to believe in someone that has told inconsistent stories just by his own actions, is a manipulator? And are you really going to believe that these children are missing and try to buy all the shit that Haley planted the blanket and that it's all as a ruse to somehow, what would be the purpose of the Brookside planting this blanket? Okay. Ask yourself, if something happened to Jack and Lily, right? So just like the Suzanne Morphew case, right? Barry planted the helmet and the bike and stuff like that. And he did a misdirection. Let's plant it here, but really go the other way, right? So who's really going to plant this blanket? Is it going to be if it is, okay? Just meaning if it is Daniel or Malaya's side, okay? So who's truly going to plant the blanket? The narcissist liar that can't tell the truth, that have bit him in the ass and trying to portray I keep looking over here. Don't look over at me. No, right? There's a reason why he went on the news and said, I 100% believe they're alive. That's just another way of his manipulation, right? To put it out there, right? Because now he's starting on his little train. Choo choo. Come on, you guys. Come on, you guys. You guys got to believe me. I'm telling the truth here. I'm sincere. Dude, no, not going to happen, right? Or what would be the purpose, right? What would be the one purpose that the Brookside would have to sit there and try to make Daniel seem like the only thing that would make sense is if the Brookside was trying to plant something because they were trying to hide perhaps the deaths of the children or something like that, and put it on Daniel. But that's not the case here, right? This is about two children that he says that they're planting the blanket and all that shit about him. And for what purpose? For what purpose in this wildest dreams would Malaya need to do and have this big played out stunt when she could leave and take the children with her and not have if she wanted to get her grandma Patty's help, her mom's help, somebody's help, her sister's help, her friend's help to help her, with the children and get by. Why at all would Malaya, play this game all these months later that somehow they're hidden on a reserve to be what? Protected by Daniel? Nah, come on, guys. Like, that doesn't even make sense. Why would Malaya hide her own children from someone that's not even the actual father? It would be different if this was the actual father and she was trying to hide these children somehow. But trust me, the RCMP, she would have just come out and said it, that she just wanted to get away. There is nothing that I could think of at all to why Malaya would have this elaborate plan to plant a blanket that had something to do with the disappearance, and then she goes and hides them from Daniel. Like, I'm sorry. No, just no. What did CB say? Yeah, I see guys saying CB LOL. What did he say? Bang. Can you tell her we all making picket signs at say, please unblock us, Shannon? Why you guys think that did Shannon block you guys or something? Shannon, speak up, woman. Shannon, are you blocking people left, right, and center? She doesn't know how to unblock on there. But yeah, so come on. I'm you know what? I'm just trying to lay out the realness of this whole situation, okay? I'm not into freaking, tea leaves and freaking fairy tales and BS, right? Right? There's logical and then there's illogical. So are you going to believe the liar? Are you going to believe the narcissist? Are you going to believe the controller, the person who's pushing a narrative? Again, get Darren to back up their bullshit. They can't do it because they got no proof of it. They got no timeline. They got no point at all of Haley going into the garbage can. No, there's not going to be any cameras of someone going into the garbage can because there's no cameras right there, right? So again, who keeps making up this elaborate story? Who's trying to keep force feeding us like baby food, right? About the hidden shit, right? So who are you going to believe though? I mean, if common sense said believe a liar, a narcissist, someone who's inconsistent, and that we're supposed to believe that these children are hidden based on this person's account that can't even be accurate and be truthful during two missing children, right? Calling shit. It's just shit is what it is. Versus Daniel, perhaps, allegedly planting the blanket to take away from his knowledge of what happened to the children. Because this blanket to me, and as Daniel said, is absolutely planted. So if somebody planted this blanket, this is going to be a family member that planted this blanket, okay? There's no reason for this blanket to be up in that tree. Who's the one that's pushing that blanket wasn't there in the morning? Is it the narcissist, the BSer that's pushing that? And then he's trying to use the buses as times. Well, blanket was found before the bus times. Thank you very much. But so he's trying to portray that the blanket wasn't there. But Daniel, you're the one that was down there. And you had multiple opportunities to go put that blanket in the darn tree. And again, you don't know when that blanket was there because, again, the bus is, if it doesn't show that the blanket was there I don't know. We don't know for a fact about what those buses saw or what's on the video of those time frames, right? So we don't know that. But if there's somebody that had the opportunity to put that blanket out there, was it the person that was gone for an hour? Was it the person that was gone for an hour while Malaya was waiting for the RCMP to arrive? Because remember, Daniel says that he was gone for about an hour. He wasn't even there when they were setting up the search and stuff like that. Because remember, he wasn't there most of the day. But remember, he said he wasn't there when that was all happening because he was still searching. So if that blanket wasn't there, but who's trying to push the narrative like, oh my God, it must have been someone like Haley that came in after the RCMP arrived and then planted the blanket? Or was it you that was gone during that time that took that piece of the blanket to think, you know what? I'm just going to push this over here. Why are you blaming Malaya? Because you're pissed off she left your fucking sorry ass? Is that why you're blaming Malaya? To take away from your own bullshit and BS and lies? Come on, Daniel. Like I said, you can fool some of the people some of the time, but you're never going to fool me, dude, at all. And so, yeah. Daniel to me is just there's nothing in there you can believe from him from the start. Well, no, not from the start, but once his true colors, like Malaya said, started shining through. So anyways, that's my take on the whole pink blanket. You guys can still think whatever you want about it. I still, in my opinion, think that Daniel absolutely planted that blanket to misdirect from his own bullshit and put it on Malaya, right? And point fingers to something that obviously wasn't true. And he knows it's not true, but he can make it try to seem like that, right? Now, are the RCMP probably at a loss a bit? Do they know the truth? I think it's kind of clear, though, that if Daniel, again, is telling us, and I believe this, that they feel like the blanket is planted, right? I believe, again, then that's a criminal case that they haven't deemed as a criminal case. Because why would it just be a missing persons case besides the fact of using it so that they can do information a certain way? So if it was planted, I think it's not a big tell-all story. If the dog handler is questioning the fact of two children just don't disappear, but go ahead, Daniel. Keep sinking your own ship, lollipop. And then again, when the truth comes out, And like I said, so if you tell them the truth isn't hard to tell, but you don't know the truth if it hits you in the ass one way or the other anymore. You're so inconsistent and you're, so narcissistic and so full of yourself. All you're concerned about is how you look and your perception. And the only reason why you keep popping into lives everywhere is for whatever stupid reason, dude, you actually think as if selling your shit to us is going to make a difference in the outcome of the actual truth of the investigation. So it's just a matter of time, right? When the truth comes out. But he is relentless at pushing his narrative. It is absolutely like watching a dog, like a dog humping your leg type of thing. Like, get off me, like stop coming in here and talking about your bullshit all the time because you're not selling me worth shit. You might sell it to some people, but I ain't buying your crap, dude, at all. Nope. So told you she don't know how. I think you can click their name. Basically when you click on somebody, you just go to their channel and then you hit unblock, like you go to their name. Right, Wolf. Right. If I repeat myself, it's because I just want people to think logically about the situation, and not, like, let's use our brain cells here with Daniel Martell. Let's use our brain cells about everything that's being said and not keep making up reasons why these children are hidden when it's clear as day that the dog's coming in and Darren telling that the RCMP are a bunch of clowns because they didn't believe a shit. They're not. Daniel Drunk Turkey Show doesn't believe that the children are hidden and that Malaya's family. He doesn't believe that either. What does that tell you? Nobody believes him. The only people that believe him are some of the followers that go into these channels that actually truly believe that these children are hidden. And I don't know why. I don't know why, because there's nothing to show that at all, right? Like Daniel Martell's personality is clear as shit, right? Clear as what do you want to call it? Mud, clear as water, clear as glass, clear as, right? Transparency with his personality and his lies. So why are we giving a BSer, an abuser, right? A liar, the time of day for believing in him anymore? Why are we giving him that type of, oh yeah, I think that the children are alive. I think Daniel is telling the truth here, that the Brookside somehow did it, right? Again, kind of ridiculous. There's no valid reason for Malaya to hide these children at all. Like zero. Especially this long into it. It just doesn't make sense. There's no making sense of it because it's nonsense. And the only person selling you this shit is Daniel. And look who Daniel is. He's full of shit. So why would we believe him? Why would we believe anything that comes out of his mouth? Because he's trying to propagate you guys to believe that crap, because there's no real answer, because the RCMP haven't, we haven't had any answers about this case. The answers are telling, and the cadaver dogs being brought in, right? That should say world to you. Daniel, you can kiss your polygraph test. Don't care about it, dude. You're a narcissist. You could easily lie your ass through a polygraph test, especially when you're only asked 4 questions, right? He absolutely is a narcissist. This man, have you guys not noticed how many times this man has put down Malaya in all of his screenshots that we have between what he was, especially the ones between Charmaine and Daniel? Everything was a put down about Malaya. I mean, trust me, that man's pissed because she left his ass, right? Because she couldn't stand being with them. I mean, he's a wonderful catch, right? I mean, thank you for the palace you brought me inside. I can guarantee you that of all of this still, that Malaya, she was in a world of depression, right? She found herself in another shit-ass relationship, right? With somebody that was controlling, limited her friends and all that stuff. I ain't shining a good light on Daniel's ass. Sorry, dude. You ain't fooling me with that bull crap. I know exactly your type of personality because I've lived it. All right. And you are what I would call just a full-blown narcissistic liar, and reap what you sow, regardless, because no matter if there's involvement or not, I would never say sorry to your ass ever. Because again, when the truth is being told and you want to play all this bullshit on the internet, have a cup of go fuck yourself, dude. And like I said, karma, be a bitch. You guys, no matter what, you and Malaya are responsible for why we're sitting here today. And I'm not going to sugarcoat your ass for nothing, right? You don't deserve it. And I'm not going to do it. And the children aren't missing. They're not hidden by Malaya's family. So you can suck it on that one on there. So I'm sitting here trying to take away from Daniel's bullshit. And that's just by facts, really, his own words, their own words, and the shit that's happening with RCMP right now. All right, I'm ready for bed too. Okay, let's go. Yeah, don't forget, you guys, if you haven't subscribed to Charmaine's channel, it's in the link of this description, the True Crime Story podcast and stuff like that. Okay, fine, CB, I'll answer your question. Sunny, do you think that there's any correlation between Malaya getting her car plated a day or two before the children went missing? No. No. I think that I know what you're trying to say there. But no. I just think that, I mean, they need to get out and about. And I know that Ginny has her car, but she probably didn't let them use it. But no, I don't. if I was just going by my gut, I don't think it has anything to do with a part of the children's disappearance and stuff like that. No. If again, if anything, I want to state this: if something happened to those children on that property, right? Obviously, the dogs aren't going to pick on human decomposition if those children are left there and stuff like that, right? I mean, I know when my mom died and I watched her die on the bed, it took about 10 or 15 minutes before like her body releases like the shit and stuff that come out, once you're dead. And about 10 or 15 minutes later, you literally go from someone touching them soft to a fucking dead icicle on that stuff. It's really quite weird watching how fast a body just freezes up like that and just releases. But anyways, so again, it's one of those things, is that I still think if this is the situation, unless there's something we're just totally missing, that the children, it was probably something more at the nighttime before that. But I think it was an accident. I don't feel like this was some contrived type of story that Malaya had planned out. Like, again, Daniel's trying to feed us this shit that Patty told Darren that he talked to Malaya and she said that she could come stay there. And then Darren says, which Daniel talked about on DT, the Drunk Turkey Shows live. And then he said that Malaya said she had other plans. Have a cup of go fuck yourself too, Darren, on that bullshit. All right. So Daniel, who constantly claims that Malaya has nothing to do with it, then turns around and says that Darren said Malaya had other plans. Give me a fucking break. You guys, he's spinning the laundry into a narrative. He's spinning the chairs and nothing being moved into a narrative. Like, do you understand? Do you people see what he's doing here? That all this information that he's trying to add is everything to keep plastering it against Malaya. Like, are we fucking stupid? Right? Or are we freaking smart that we see exactly? Do we understand that he's going to the news and saying they're alive to push his narrative as well? Come on, right? That's exactly what this man's doing. And I told you, when he's using these water references, okay, he's taking you guys for a bunch of fucking idiots and he's just making a joke out of it. And he's using all these muddying in the water shit and, like the sea, like you can see what he's doing. Yeah. It is a joke, for Durwood, Dickwood, whatever, to come out and sit there and say that he knows where the children are and that they're in a safe place and he's not going to fuck off. Fuck you, dude. Fuck you and your freaking little tiny donkey that you rode in off. Seriously, it's such a joke. It is such a joke. You're going to literally come out. That's just as bad as when he came out and told, you know what? I know the kids are safe. My source, Janie, over there told me the truth and I believe her. So from this point onwards, right? Like I'm like a Daniel lover, right? And Janie lover. And I believe every little gospel that they say now. I mean, the guy's a tard. All right. The man is a total tard. I thought he had more brains than that, but obviously not. He left his brains, when they handed out trains. Remember that saying? But anyways, bottom line is, yeah. I find it so offensive that he literally is trying to claim that he knows exactly where the children are, but he's not going to be telling the RCMP because guess what? Because they're in such a better place now, aren't they? Oh, fuck yourself, dude. Fuck yourself. Fuck you, Daniel, too, for all your bullshitting lying BS about Jack and Lily. Sunny's got the swear bombs going off all of a sudden, doesn't she? No. Honestly, I hate bullshit, right? And I'm trying to, in my head, trying to clear you guys up and go, look at, okay, does this make sense? Does this make sense? No. So Daniel's a liar. Daniel's an abuser, right? Daniel's a manipulator. Daniel's a controller. He's controlling a narrative. For the people that are falling for it, you know what? Sucker born every minute. Enjoy it. But I'm going to stick with what's the factual side of things and know who's the one that I shouldn't believe and know what I should believe. And that's the fact that Daniel's trying to sell us a bunch of shit. Durwood is even adding more shit to that pile and then claiming that he knows where they are. And again, I don't think that we were born yesterday. Some of us were, but most of us weren't. And that's why most of us feel like these children are deceased and that family members had something and some sort of involvement inside of it, allegedly. Mm-hmm. Sunny, I meant because maybe that was one of the last things she needed to do before going, if she was going to leave. Dun, 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 dun. 1 second. That's insulting to donkeys. This is my first crime case ever. I never knew any existed. Do you guys put faith in the tarot, mediums, etc.? Let me put it this way. I use certain people as a tool to perhaps give me some insight that I might not have thought about myself, right? So do I know that there is truly good mediums out there? Yes, I've had my own experience with that. Not only that, but I've also had my own personal experience with knowing that that our loved ones are around us. Okay, that was a gift given to me back in the early 2000s, and I'll always be grateful for Jaron giving me the knowledge of letting us know that our loved ones are right there beside us and that we can talk to them. So if that makes me look cuckoo clock, I don't care. Again, I'm not here to bullshit. I'm not even here to make shit up about that stuff. You know, I'm just speaking from my heart, the truth. And I know exactly what happened and what I was shown to know that there is more beyond this life. So absolutely, I've been read by an amazing medium. Probably the first time I was ever read, actually. Amazing, gifted, so gifted. And there's just no way she could have BS'd it, you know, and you know that I'm smart enough to understand the difference between someone generalizing and someone being specific. So yes, there are people that are truly good. One of my favorite ones that I do like to watch, I better not say. I mean, I know that there's Zach Jackson, right? And he's a medium and he's been putting out video clips. There's another person I really like to watch as well. And her name is Shal, like SHAL, Tarot, Shal Spirit Tarot, Shal Tarot Spirit. But I really like her. I find her voice very soothing. And I actually find that, you know, like she makes sense to what I believe of the case as well. There are some other good ones out there as well, but just lately, especially, those are the two that I go to. I just think that there truly are gifted people for sure. And CB, and honestly, for those people that it is their first time in a true crime case, okay, when you're in the true crime community, okay, well, hold on to your freaking pants and get ready for a ride, because it is a whole new whack of stuff than the news outlets. Okay, true crime community is not for the faint-hearted, I'll tell you that much. I gotta go pee. That's what I gotta go do. Yeah. Again, I'm not new to this myself. I've been in it over 5 years. And so to me, it's about 5 years actually. And again, you know, you take the good with the bad, you take the, the ugly and all that stuff with it. And so it's not my first time at the rodeo. So, for the people that it is, it's definitely a whole new ball game, especially if this is a first case and stuff like that. That's all I can say is that, once you follow cases, you realize that these are a dime a dozen, that this shit happens everywhere all day long. Exactly. I'm not buying what you're selling, Daniel. Like I said, I don't even think you can fool the Eskimos and sell them some ice cubes or anything like that. All I can say is that the thing that we truly wanted of all this is always answers for the victims, first and foremost. And again, I'm just going to call a spade a spade. Not here to bullshit anyone. I'm not here to try to gain or profit off of the sense of the missing and the murdered. I'd never look at it that way at all. We are a voice in a part of the YouTube land that pays for ads, that people like your channel and they want to help you out because they like all the work and stuff you put in and they donate and do things like that. Anyone that says differently, again, can kiss my ass, because I think personally, for the people that bring awareness to cases, again, if people want to send donations or buy them a coffee and stuff like that for all their hard work, whether it's True Crime Land or whether it's freaking game show type one, video games, whether it's a cupcake show or anything like that, right? Tell me, what's going to impact more? Selling your effing fucking cupcakes on a YouTube video and doing lives, or impacting people that have missing children and advocating for the missing and the murdered, you know? So I think for the people that do it for the right reasons, like myself, again, whatever comes with that, if it becomes that the channel grows subscribers because of the awareness, gets on the news clip and stuff like that recently, and it helps promote the channel to bring awareness, I'm all for that, right? Because that's the joy out of it I get, is the fact that we can do something together to make cases stay out into the public, and we can make them go away as well and talk about different cases, because there's so many cases out there. So for the sake of what we do for the missing and the murdered, I'm proud that at least I'm putting myself into a space that it helps people. Whether some people like Daniel don't agree, too bad, sucker. Doesn't matter, you know, because of your shit that this case is even existing, yours and Malaya's on that stuff. But for the fact that we can just talk about it, spread awareness for Jack and Lily and other cases, what more beautiful thing in the world could you do, to be honest with you, is to help other people, right? So anyone that tries to take it down by talking about monetization, again, kiss my ass, every part of it. Don't care. You have zero impact in my life. I know why I'm here. I know why I do it. You think I'm getting rich off this or something like that? Absolutely not. One day, can I support myself maybe off the channel and not have to work? Maybe, right? But I'll let this channel always grow organically and naturally. I'll never try to bullshit people. I'll never try to use thumbnails and try to lure you in. And I'll never try to sit there again and make up things that aren't true. And if something's not true, I'll be sure as hell to let you guys know it wasn't true. Kind of like the picture of the vape pen or whatever the heck I think it's still a vape pen. I do, right? I mean, I would have liked for it to have been one of his perhaps cell phones or his burner phones or whatever. I mean, it's not the fact that he doesn't have burner phones, right? I know that he had 2 burner phones. So does he talk to Malaya through a burner phone? Possibly. Does he not? Possibly. I don't know. You know, but as long as there's caring, loving people in this world that really, truly care to be in the true crime space and stuff like that, right? It's us that can make a difference, right? Because it's us that can have these beautiful hearts that care so much about cases that's why we're here. And that's what I'll always think about first before I think about the losers that always try to tear, you down all the time and stuff like that, right? The people with the biggest voices about that shit, again, they don't do anything at all to contribute to being a voice for the victims. All they do is contribute to how to try to tear down a creator, a content creator. So that's why it sucks to be them in life, and I'm fine with who I am, right? So did you party for me? Anyways, I definitely got to get going because I definitely have to work at 6 a.m., which means I got to be up at 5:30 because I'm working from home. But anyways, you guys, thank you guys. And don't forget, Charmaine had a live before this one as well. So check that out. Hopefully she's over her 1,000 subs at this point. Ben, before I go, is Charmaine, because I'm too lazy to grab the link. Is Charmaine, I guess I could look. Is she over 1,000? Is she over 1,000, Ben? Let's see. Oh, wait. And by the way, as well, so I used Daphne Case Files videos. I used Drunk Turkey videos. I used Hidden in the Fog videos. I use It's a Crime and Shame videos. And I use True Crime, Hunter S. True Crime videos. Just to all put this together about the whole blanket thing and what's been said about it and all that. Why were Daniel's dirty keys and money in that photo? I don't know. I don't know that they were car keys. I mean, it's not really like a car key fob, so I'm really not sure. Maybe that's a question that Daniel can answer. About that. I don't believe Haley's accounts. So-called F part says it all. Her narrative. What reason? Hey. I don't believe Haley's accounts. So I called. Well, I believe Haley's accounts. I'm the one that actually talks to her, and for quite a few months, So I talked to her myself, and I believe Haley's accounts absolutely, right? Because again, you're not the one sitting in a messenger talking with somebody all the time, getting to know them and stuff like that. So I get it, because you're just going by a few things or whatever. So I'm not here to force you to believe on that, but I believe Haley. And if she's not going to probably tell me definitely everything for sure, right? But I only want to ask what matters, right? And if she's willing to say, then absolutely. Then, Haley's a nice person. She has a very kind heart. She could have just ignored me if she wanted to. Okay, guys. Again, I'm looking at reality though, for me, Mary. Again, I'm not trying to sell everybody on what they want to believe. I'm sure going to point it out to them for sure, right? But I mean, again, I don't even have to go. Actually, Grandma, she gave you that photo for a reason. Why not photos of the drug? She claims. Well, okay, so now I'm gonna go back to Haley on this one, Mary, because obviously that needs to be cleared up. Because I know in Hidden in the Fog that she had said she had gone into the bathroom. No, so she had said that her was it her sister-in-law, mother-in-law, needed to use the bathroom, and Daniel was making all this noise. And then she said, and then they went into the bathroom to investigate. And something, I'm right, I'm about drugs, right? Now, so you're right. So, I mean, perhaps if you look at that picture, maybe that white powdery shit, not in the baggie, because that's not a baggie, that's a piece of metal. But maybe that shit is drugs. Maybe it's not, whatever. So, because then when she was in a thing, she had said, I didn't say I found drugs in the bathroom. So people said that she was backtracking on what she said, right? Now, so that's one of the things, because so many people remember that. That's one of the things I'm going to clarify with her. I asked her if I could ask her some questions. But that's one of the ones that I wanted to clear up for you guys. Because even I told her when I listened to it, I said, well, you did say that, you found drugs in the bathroom type of thing. But, so then she kind of, like I said, retracted on that part of it. Not the fact that Daniel didn't do drugs, but it was about the drugs in the bathroom. So I do want to go back to her and clarify that exactly with her. Well, what do you mean her claims are BS as well? Right? So again, I'm going to go back to her and ask her. Again, you don't have to believe anything at all that Haley says whatsoever. I'm not on the same minds, but I do want to clear that one up because there are other people that remember that as well, right? So I'm just going to clarify it with her. Simply ask her the question myself, and either you take it with what it is or you don't believe it regardless. But either way, I still want to ask her about that. Now, again, you haven't spent months with talking to somebody, and this is over a period of time and stuff like that. There's certainly things I'm not going to tell you, right? Because what I want is certain answers from Haley about, especially about Daniel and this planting of the blanket, how she feels about Daniel kept propagating this about this. I mean, we've already heard her on Decibel and Hidden in the True Fog and stuff like that. And she's basically like saying BS. Well, I agree with her. Right? Right. I mean, again, if Malaya told people that Daniel was doing drugs, in the bathroom when she woke up, is it so hard not to believe that there might have been? But I get it. Right now, it's not that there wasn't. I never asked for a picture of this. She had showed me something she found, so I don't know. I'm gonna ask her. Simple as that. It's the best I can do, right? I'm trying to figure things. I'm just trying to entertain you for a few seconds because I'm trying to figure things still today. Not looking at one being Daniel as a BSer. Well, you can still try to figure out, but the number one thing is Daniel's a BSer at the end of the day. So, like I said, I have way more knowledge than you do about things. I have far more information than most people do, just like some other content creators. Why? Because we're the ones that people go to, right? So in behind the scenes, whatever you have for information is your information. And I have my information. So behind the scenes, I have to think about that information into all these factors of what's normal, what's being said, how someone's acting, why they're acting that way, and stuff like that. So at the end of the day, is it going to solve where Jack and Lily are? Right? Like, meaning and then I'm not going by hidden, I'm talking about dead and buried type of thing. Is that going to solve where Jack and Lily are? No. But possibly involvement, like the blanket. Yeah. Right. There will be a press conference soon. Yeah. Yeah. And good, right? There's different information from our different channels, and it really just boils down to take from any of it what you will, and determine your own choice and stuff like that. I mean, free will, right? Get information, decide what you want. I'm just here to point out what I want to point out myself, and for good reason. I'm not sitting here going, oh, you know what? Let me just bash on Daniel Day. No, it's just he's the one that bullshits all the time. So why would I not point out about this whole blanket thing, and then him, lying about it and stuff like that? Why would I not point that out? We want the truth, not the BS, right? We want the truth from everybody, not the BS. Anyways, okay, guys, you guys have a great night. I'm just doing a regular intro outage tonight. Jack and Lily, again, make sure you hit the like and the share for them first and foremost. But anyways, thanks mods. Thanks everyone. You guys have a great night and see you soon.